And I'll call this meeting to order. I'll start with a roll call. Councillor Stevenson.
Good morning.
Good morning, Councillor Salvador.
Good morning.
Councillor Morgan.
Good morning.
And Councillor Elliott.
Good morning.
Good morning. I don't know if Mayor Knack is online, but others joining online. Councillor Wright.
Good morning.
Good morning, and Councillor Parmar.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone. And I'd like to start by acknowledging that we meet on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and the Métis homeland, and acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Nakota, Iska, as well as Métis and Inuit, and now settlers from around the world. And happy National Indigenous Day yesterday. Hope everybody had good celebrations despite the rain. Oh, I apologize. Should have done that first and then the roll call. At this time, I also want to check for pecuniary or conflict of interest. Before we consider today's agenda, I will ask all members of council present if they have any pecuniary or conflicts of interest to declare regarding any of the items to be discussed. A pecuniary interest exists when an item could monetarily affect a member of council, their employer, or family member. A conflict of interest exists when an item could affect a private interest of a member of council, their employer, or family member. Do any members of council here or otherwise have a pecuniary or conflict of interest to declare? Seeing none, we'll move on to adoption of the agenda. Councillor Elliott, would you like to move the adoption of the agenda?
Thank you, Chair. I so move for the adoption of agenda. The recommendation that the June 2022-2026 Utility Committee meeting agenda be adopted with the following changes. Replacement attachment 7.1. EPCOR Water Services 2025 Performance-Based Regulation Progress Report. Replacement attachment 1. Items to be dealt with together. 7.1. EPCOR Water Services 2025 Performance-Based Regulation Progress Report. 7.2. EPCOR Water Services Proposed Performance Measures for 2028 to 2031 Performance-Based Regulation Application. Number 2, request to speak. Pardon me.
No, that's good. Thank you very much. Any questions on the agenda? If not, let's vote. Please vote.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that's been carried. Councillor Morgan, would you like to do the minutes?
Sure. I'd like to move that the May 15th, 2026 Utility Committee meeting minutes be approved.
Any questions? Please vote.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Councillor Stevenson. We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that's been carried. For council protocol item, we do have one today. I'd like to acknowledge that tomorrow is the National Day of Remembrance for Victims of Terrorism. The federal government first proclaimed this day in 2005 in memory of those who have lost their lives through acts of terror in Canada and around the world. The day was chosen to coincide with the anniversary of the Air India Flight 182 tragedy, which occurred on June 23, 1985. On that day, a bomb exploded on the flight while en route from Toronto to London, England, killing all 329 people aboard, 280 of them Canadians. A similar bomb intended for another Air India flight also killed 2 baggage handlers at Tokyo's Narita Airport. This day serves as a reminder that we cannot take our relative safety at home in our own communities for granted. As the world grows increasingly interconnected and complex, so too does our risk of experiencing terrorism. While at home or abroad, Canadians must stay vigilant in understanding the world around them. We must not become desensitized to violence, and we cannot accept it as normal. Canada is a strong nation that it is that it is because we collectively uphold the values of inclusion, respect for diversity, and pluralism, values that are stronger than fear, hatred, and intolerance. So today and tomorrow, as we remember the victims of terrorism, we must also recommit to these values in pursuit of a safer, kinder, and more just world for all. Thank you. Thank you for that. We're going to select items for debate. Can folks please sign up? Go ahead, Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. I'll select 7.1 and 7.2, and I'll leave that for others.
Do you want to, Councillor Elliott?
7-4, please.
Excellent, thank you very much. Councillor Salvador? Nope. We're going to vote on the reports not selected for debate, which is 7.3 and 7.5. Yeah, please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that's been carried. Clerk, would you like to read back to us what we've done?
So today we passed the following items without debate. Item 7.3, EPCOR Water Services Update on Recommendations from 2025 to 2027 Wastewater Performance-Based Regulation Application. And item 7.5, Bylaw 21544 to amend EPCOR Water Services Bylaw 19626, Amendment Number 2.
Thank you very much. Councillor Elliott, do we have any requests to speak?
Yes, we do, Chair. The recommendation here too is Utility Committee hear the following speakers in panels where appropriate. So 7.4, recommendations for addressing legal dumping at apartments and condos. Number 1 will be Donna Monkhouse with Alberta Residential Landlord Association, remote. Number 2, Scott Siebel with Oak Point Development Incorporated, in person. Number 3, Christopher Badorf, in person as well.
Sorry, is Christopher still confirmed to speak? Okay, great. Okay, perfect. We've added you to that motion. Please vote.
We have all the votes.
Please display the vote. And that's been carried. Request for specific time on agenda. I don't believe we have any. Councillor inquiries. I wasn't aware of any. Reports to be dealt with at a different meeting, none. Requests to reschedule reports, none. Unfinished business, none. And we will go straight to our 7172. We'll invite our delegation up to present. I know you've all had a very, very busy weekend, so thank you for being here. We can't wait to talk about performance rates. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, councillors. Thank you for having us here today. So we're here to talk to you about two topics. One is the 2025 progress report for EPCOR Water Services. So that is the entire water cycle, water and wastewater, and then also to gather your input on some proposed future performance measures for the upcoming PBR term. So I'll introduce the team and turn it over to them. So right next to me here is Saqib Chaudhary, who's Senior Director of Regulatory and Business Planning. Next to Saqib is Tina Yanitsky, Group Vice President for Linear Assets. And they will do the bulk of the presentation for us. And then right next to Tina is Nicola Lewin, who's Associate Director of Stormwater Strategies and Adaptation. Oh, sorry, Carmen. I got that mixed up. So that's Associate Director Carmen Piercy from Regulatory and Business Planning. So with that, I will turn that over to Zakib to take us through the performance review.
Thanks, Frank. Good morning. So our presentation covers two items today. The 2025 Progress Report, which covers financial and operational performance for our water and wastewater utilities for the year ended December 31, 2025, and a preview of the proposed performance measure changes we are bringing forward as part of the upcoming 2028 to 2031 Consolidated Performance-Based Regulation application. We'll begin with a progress report and then turn to the performance measures discussion for the second half of the presentation. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the progress report. As everyone is aware, the progress report is a bylaw requirement, but the intent behind the report is to ensure transparency and accountability for our performance. The approval of the PBR by City Council sets our financial and operational targets. EPCOR then plans and operates to meet these targets, and annually we report back to Utility Committee on how we performed. Our report summarizes financial performance in areas including revenues, operating costs, return on equity, and capital investment. In addition, the report summarizes operational performance through the performance measure indices that are approved as part of each PBR application. Next slide, please. The report covers all 5 service areas that are regulated under PBR, and these include our water treatment plants, which includes Rossdale and E.L. Smith, which draw raw water from the North Saskatchewan River and treat it to drinking water standards. Water distribution, which is the transmission and distribution networks that deliver water to customers across the city. Wastewater treatment, this is where our Gold Bar plant treats sewage and returns effluent to the North Saskatchewan River. Sanitary wastewater collection, which includes the underground sewer network that collects and conveys sewage to Gold Bar. And our stormwater wastewater collection system, which includes the storm systems, including dry ponds, tunnels, and green infrastructure. Next slide, please. This diagram shows how the 5 service areas connect, from the river intake through the treatment plants into the distribution system and back through the collection and treatment systems before returning to the river. This visual highlights the integrated nature of our water and wastewater system and how we plan and operate through a one water approach. Next slide, please. So in this next section, we'll cover off the financial review. Next slide, please. Overall, 2025 financial results were solid across all 3 utilities. Revenues came in above forecast, costs were also above forecast, and ROE landed very close to the approved return, with in-city water slightly ahead and wastewater treatment and collection essentially on forecast. On revenues, total EPCOR Water Services revenues were $742 million against a forecast of $720 million, which is about 3% above forecast. The main driver was in-city water, where actual revenue was $270 million, exceeding the forecast by approximately $17 million. That variance traces almost entirely to consumption being well above forecast, which I'll cover on the next slide. Wastewater treatment came in at $157 million versus a forecast of $153 million, and wastewater collection was essentially on target at $314 million. On costs, operating costs were $371 million against a forecast of $347 million, or $24 million above forecast. That overage was spread across all 3 utilities and reflects a combination of inflationary pressures on labor and materials and higher service volumes than forecast. The cost increase essentially offsets the revenue upside, which is why the net ROE landed close to the forecast. On ROE, in-city earned ROE of 10.86% versus a forecast of 10.54. Wastewater treatment came in at 10.85 versus a forecast of 11.18, which reflects a modest shortfall driven by higher operating costs. And wastewater collection was 10.26 versus 10.25, so right on target. Total EPCOR Water Services return on equity in dollar terms was about $3 million lower than forecast, or less than 2%. Capital spending was $479 million above the PBR forecast of $391 million, and Tina will address the capital drivers separately when we get to that section. And finally, rate base was $4.29 billion versus a forecast of $4.39 billion, and that's attributed to differences between timing of capital additions as well as depreciation. Next slide. That brings us to customers and consumption for in-city water. So before we dive into the details here, it's important to note that the forecast was set in mid-2020 for the 2022 to 2026 PBR term. The forecast was prepared during COVID, when population growth in Edmonton was expected to remain subdued. However, Edmonton grew faster and denser than anyone projected in 2020, and these variances reflect that. We had approximately 327,000 customer connections in 2025 versus a forecast of 317,000. So that's a difference of greater than 10,000, or 3.3% higher than forecast. The largest variance was in commercial, which came in 17% above forecast, with residential and multi-residential at about 2%. However, the bigger story is consumption. Total water consumption was about 99,000 megaliters, or about 16% above the forecast. That is a pretty significant variance, and the explanation isn't that we just have more customers. What's changed is how the city is growing. Edmonton's population has been growing at roughly twice the rate of service account additions since 2023. The reason is densification, including new secondary suites, basement suites, and garden suites. Multiple households are now being served through a single meter. Residential consumption per connection in 2025 was 14.3 cubic meters per month versus a 2020 forecast of 12.7. In addition, we saw increases in multi-residential as well. So what that means is more people behind each account has resulted in more consumption per account. We're now using AMI data at a neighborhood level, and that analysis will be incorporated to develop our forecast for the upcoming PBR application. Next slide, please. This slide here presents the same view, however, for the wastewater collection side. And the reason we've got this slide here, this forecast reflects a forecast that was updated in 2024. And that's significant because we had 4 more years of data than when we prepared the in-city water forecast. So it had access to more current growth data, and that's why the variances here are significantly smaller. So for example, wastewater collection had 321,000 customer connections versus a forecast of 320,000, which is only less than 0.5% above forecast. The underlying drivers are the same: densification, secondary suites, population growth faster than connection counts. But because the wastewater forecast was built in 2024, it captured more of those trends in the baseline, resulting in variances that are narrower. However, residential consumption was higher than forecast at 14.3 versus 13.3, which is a 7.5 variance. When we file the consolidated 2028 PBR application, a single application covering all 3 utilities, water and wastewater treatment and collection, will be working from the same forecast. That's one of the structural improvements the consolidated PBR application allows us to make. For the next portion of the presentation, I'll turn it over to Tina to review the capital highlights.
All right, thanks, Sakib. Next slide, please. All right. So this section focuses on highlights from our 2025 capital program, along with some of our key focus areas. So last year, EPCOR Water invested $479 million in capital projects to support the safe and reliable delivery of water and wastewater services across Edmonton. Approximately 60% of this investment, or about $289 million, was dedicated to reliability and lifecycle-driven programs. So this includes projects that focus on like-for-like replacements or asset rehabilitation, which helps reduce the likelihood of failure due to aging infrastructure, so including water main renewals or large trunk rehabilitation. It also includes projects that improve resiliency of both our systems and assets, such as the flood mitigation work at both water treatment plants. Another 19%, or about $91 million, was dedicated to supporting growth in city requirements, such as new water and wastewater service connections, LRT and franchise-driven relocations, new transmission mains to support new development, along with dry ponds and LID infrastructure. And the remaining 21%, or about $99 million, was split between projects that improve system efficiency and performance, such as our AMI project, and projects driven by regulatory or health, safety, and environmental requirements, such as lead service line replacements and odor control upgrades. Next slide, please. If we look at our capital investment by system, about 50%, or $239 million, was dedicated to our sanitary, combined, and stormwater systems. 1/3, or $158 million, was dedicated to our water treatment, distribution, and transmission system assets, and 17%, or $82 million, was allocated to our wastewater treatment plant. Next slide. So as mentioned, one of our key critical programs to support system and asset reliability is the flood protection work that we're undertaking at both our Rosedale and E.L. Smith water treatment plants. In 2025, we saw significant progress towards the goal of protecting both of these plants from a 1 in 500 high water event on the North Saskatchewan River, both from an underground perspective through our existing waste streams and intakes, as well as from an overland perspective. So construction of the required earth berms and concrete walls, along with installation of outfall gates, is ongoing, with all work expected to be completed at both plants by the end of 2027. We're also currently developing the flood protection strategy for our Gold Bar wastewater treatment plant, which will focus more on outfall gates and securing our tunnels and hatches to prevent ingress and protect critical equipment to allow operations to resume as quickly as possible following an event. The project will be included in our upcoming PBR submission. Next slide, please. So EPCOR did complete a number of critical projects at Gold Bar in 2025 to enhance reliability. This included phase 1 of our primary effluent channel upgrade using an integrated project delivery model. The primary effluent channels, which were built in the 1970s, transport partially treated wastewater from the primary clarifiers to the bioreactors. Construction involved the installation of a new bypass flume, which you can actually see in the photo, along with new isolation gates and channel connections between bioreactors, which help improve operational flexibility and redundancy during maintenance. We also rehabilitated the fourth of 4 original 1955 digesters at Gold Bar. This project not only extended the life of the digesters, which treat solids removed from wastewater, along with producing biogas for plant heating, but the new technology increased each unit's capacity and efficiency without a change in the size, which is critical given the extremely tight footprint we have at Gold Bar. Next slide. With respect to our wastewater collection system, some of the key highlights include the substantial completion of the Duggan Tunnel project, which eliminated a deteriorated and oversized trunk while reducing long-standing odor issues in this area. The $76 million project was one of the largest completed by EPCOR on the wastewater collection system. It included 3.2 kilometers of new 1,200 millimeter sanitary sewer trunk, along with 15 new shafts. The Kenilworth Dry Pond was also substantially completed in 2025, with minor site restoration to be completed this year. In addition to the dry pond, this $30 million project also included 1,300 meters of storm and sanitary sewer separation, and the installation of LID infrastructure to help reduce the flood risk in the Kenilworth neighborhood. The last project we want to highlight is the construction of a new tunnel along 97th Street from 80th Ave to 88th Ave to replace an existing deteriorated trunk in the Mill Creek Ravine. Construction was completed at the end of December and is now in service with trunk abandonment in progress. Next slide, please. So in addition to our focus on capital placement, EPCOR Water continued to support reliable services through a focus on meeting service expectations even during challenging weather conditions. In 2025, EPCOR Water Services experienced 310 water main breaks, 30% of which occurred in a single month, after a cold snap in February was followed by rapidly warming weather. Despite this, EPCOR was able to exceed targets for main break response and repair times, in addition to customer satisfaction scores, as you will hear in our performance measure overview. Weather continued to be a challenge for our water treatment plants throughout the spring, as we experienced 3 separate spring runoffs where we saw high volumes of organics flow into the river, resulting in unprecedented color. During this challenge, treatment plant staff were able to maintain excellent water quality throughout the city. Next slide, please. So last year, we continued to strengthen our asset management processes by creating an integrated team that manages asset risk across our entire portfolio. This includes both of our water treatment plants, our wastewater treatment plant, as well as all of our linear asset systems. This team assesses both the likelihood and consequence of failure of assets, ensuring our life cycle and reliability capital programs can effectively balance the need to mitigate these critical single points of failure, even if the likelihood is low, along with the need to proactively address aging assets that might have a lower impact on customers, but we need to meet our service standards and performance measures. And as part of our ongoing assessment of critical assets, we've increased the number of inspections on both water transmission mains as well as large wastewater trunks, both of which are complex and require significant planning and access construction, but are essential to ensuring our system resiliency. Next slide. So our dedication to environmental protection remains one of our core foundational commitments. In addition to achieving the renewal of our 10-year approval to operate for the wastewater system, we continue to exceed our wastewater effluent limit performance requirements. This metric, which tracks the quality of the final effluent being returned to the river, ultimately is a measure of the performance of our treatment processes at our Gold Bar wastewater treatment plant. As part of our commitment to the environment and source water protection, we have continuously exceeded our approval requirements despite ongoing population growth. Next slide. So focusing on growth, we actually saw a 40% increase in service connection requests in 2025 compared to 2024, completing 796 services at 529 locations. Through focused planning and field execution, 90% of these service connections were completed within the 6-week timeframe, despite increased complexities that we see from larger infill service requests to support multifamily units. We were also able to support 14 projects, or about 2,000 units, through the Infill Infrastructure Fund, ensuring adequate fire protection requirements were met to support redevelopment. Next slide. So to help continue to support flood mitigation and safety in our community, we invested $12 million in 110 green infrastructure or low-impact development projects, many of which that we work very closely with the City of Edmonton on. Our stormwater rebate program, which encourages Edmontonians to help slow or store rainwater on their properties, saw 160 projects completed. And hopefully many of you have seen our campaigns on TV and social media promoting public safety around our assets, sharing information on reducing flooding risk in your homes, and avoiding toilet leaks and sewer backups. I'll now turn it back to Saqib to cover our 2025 performance measures.
Thanks, Tina. So that brings us to the second half of our presentation. And so first I'll cover off the 2025 performance measures results, and then I'll turn it over to Carmen, and she'll speak to what we're proposing for the forthcoming 28 to 2031 consolidated PBR application. So the performance measure results are the other half of our accountability obligation and demonstrate how we delivered on the service that we committed to, not just whether the financial returns came in on plan. So we have three separate scorecards, one for in-city water, one for wastewater treatment, and one for wastewater collection. At a summary level, water met 4 of the 5 indices, wastewater treatment met 3 of 4, and wastewater collection met all 4. Next slide, please. And before we get into the details of how we did, it's important to understand the framework of our PBR performance measures. The 4 index categories include water, wastewater quality and environment, customer service, system reliability and optimization, as well as safety. These apply to each of our utilities. However, the specific measures and weightings differ to reflect the nature of each operation. Targets are set on industry benchmarks, historical trends, and stakeholder feedback. Results are externally audited and publicly reported. If performance falls below the standard, a financial penalty applies automatically. There's no discretion in the penalty mechanism under the current framework. However, I'll note this is one of the proposed changes for the next term, which we'll discuss later on in the presentation. Next slide. So over the course of the next 3 slides, we'll get into the details of the performance measures results for each of the utilities. So as I mentioned before, in-city water met standards on 4 of 5 indices. The water quality index came in at 99.6% against a target of 99.7%, so just slightly below. Of the 68,000 samples collected in 2025, only 3 failed to meet regulatory requirements, and on review, all 3 were attributed to sample collection issues rather than actual water quality problems. The driver of the small shortfall against our internal target was due to increased sampling in areas with elevated turbidity during specific periods, and these issues were addressed through targeted flushing. Customer service met the index standard. The post-service audit survey, main break response time, and planned construction impact exceeded the standard. The one individual measure below standard was home sniffing at 94% versus 94.4%, and Tina touched on this. The shortfall came out of spring 2025, where we had 3 separate periods of elevated organic matter entering the river from back-to-back freeze-thaw events. It was a very unusual sequence for us, and our treatment staff managed it effectively as drinking water quality was maintained throughout the event. System reliability met the index standard with strong results across the board. This index includes water main breaks, repair duration, water loss, and system energy efficiency. Most notably, water loss was 1.10 on the index versus a standard of 1.23, and our actual loss rate is around 6%, well below the national average of about 17%. In terms of the environment, we met the index standard. Water consumption came in at 14.4 cubic meters per month per household versus a target of 16.8, which reflects that over a long-term trend, customers are using less water. Environmental incidents were 1 against a target of 5, and solids residual management was 138 days versus a target of 120 days. Safety also met the index standard, 0 lost time incidents. All injury frequency rate was 0.07 versus a target of 1, and both near-miss reporting and worksite inspections exceeded targets, reflecting the level of active safety oversight in our field operations. Next slide, please. This next slide here covers our wastewater treatment performance measures. And for wastewater treatment, we met 3 of the 4 indices. We were lower than target on system reliability, and that was driven by 1 measure, biosolids management. Our wastewater quality and environmental index met the standard. The effluent limit performance was 23.2% of our approval limit, well inside the 26% threshold which Tina referenced. So we're returning clean effluent to the North Saskatchewan River and at a level substantially better than the regulatory requirements, and environmental incidents were 3 versus a maximum of 5. Also, as noted by Tina earlier, in 2025 we completed renewal of the 10-year approval to operate for Edmonton's wastewater system. That reflects the culmination of a very significant regulatory process, and completing it confirms that our environmental management practices meet provincial requirements. For customer services, all measures within this index met the standard. The H2S results in particular are worth noting as they reflect the quality of our odor control operations at Gold Bar and their impact on surrounding neighborhoods. In terms of system reliability, that did not meet the index standard. However, 2 of 3 measures within the index met target, and the shortfall related to biosolids management, which came in at a relative reduction of 0.87 versus a target of 1. And what that means is we removed less biosolids from the Clover Bar lagoons than we intended to. However, this was due to operational challenges that reduced the volume removed from the lagoons. It's important to note that no time during the year was lagoon storage capacity inadequate. It's also worth noting that we have commissioned a new dredging equipment and process in 2025, which allowed us to remove a record volume of thickened biosolids. So for 2026, we expect to have additional capacity. Safety met the index standard as all 3 measures were above target. Next slide, please. Wastewater collection. Wastewater collection met all 4 indices, which reflects a strong overall result for our most operationally complex utility and the one with the largest capital program. In terms of the environmental index, it met the standard. Stormwater flow monitoring was 78% of sites versus a target of 70%. Reportable environmental incidents were 12 against a ceiling of 30. And the stormwater rebate project, which Tina mentioned, rain-wise, we completed 170 projects in the full first year versus a target of 150. In terms of customer service, we also met the index standard. Stormwater facility response times, deficient appurtenance response times, service connection average time all met the standard. The one individual measure below standard in this index was sewer odor response times with a score of 94.3% versus a 95% target. What drove that was higher call volumes in Q1 during spring runoff that pulled the annual number below target. However, between Q2 and Q4, we consistently were above 95%. We've since made adjustments to our peak period resourcing and scheduling, and we're going to ensure continued performance through 2026. System reliability met the index standard with all measures meeting target. Notably, sewer odor hotspots were 3.7% of network versus a 10% target. And that reflects the systematic mitigation investments in areas like Lauderdale, Mill Creek, and Southwest Edmonton. It's a result that directly translates to better quality of life for residents in those areas. And finally, safety met the index standard, which reflects the same results as wastewater treatment. Next slide. I'll turn it over to Carmen here, and as that covers the 2025 results. And then in this part of the presentation, Carmen will discuss how we're proposing to develop the 2028 to 2031 consolidated PBR metrics framework.
Thank you, Sakib. So for the upcoming 2028 to 2031 consolidated PBR, EPCOR will be proposing a new and streamlined framework for the PBR performance measures. Currently, we have about 40 performance measures, as you've seen, on 3 separate scorecards for each of water, wastewater treatment, and wastewater collection. And now we're proposing to move to a single consolidated scorecard for all of EPCOR Water Services, comprised of 18 performance measures. And for the upcoming PBR, we're also proposing a simplification of our scoring mechanism from a previous system which included more complex calculations, including indices and bonus points. Next slide, please. So the current framework defines 5 key categories of performance to delivering safe and reliable utility services. Each of the 3 operations have adopted this same general framework. Within each of the 5 service categories, there are several performance measures. And as we move to the consolidation of our water services organization and consolidation into a single PBR application, it makes sense to consolidate the performance measures into a single set. There will still be 5 categories, but there are a few key differences. There's more emphasis on measures that focus on customer outcomes. The customer service category has been expanded into customer experience and customer responsiveness. And although the safety category has been removed, it remains very important for EPCOR to measure our safety performance internally. The safety metrics can also be reported for information, but they are no longer part of the PBR framework. Next slide, please. So to develop our new performance measure framework and select the measures, we undertook significant research into industry performance measures, relying primarily on the leading water and wastewater regulators in various jurisdictions. We found many commonly used measures, many of which were similar to our existing measures. We also found the number of metrics being reported by these leading utilities to their financial regulator ranged from about 13 to 24 measures. As part of our performance measure review, we also accounted for learnings that were taken from most recent customer engagement efforts to understand our customers' key priorities and concerns. And we considered feedback received in previous discussions with the Utility Committee and City Administration, and most notably from the last wastewater PBR proceeding. We brought all of this background information to internal discussions with our operations and leadership teams to evaluate both the existing measures and potential new measures. Based on all of this background research, we aimed to select measures that were meaningful and relevant to our customers and to the regulator, similar to those commonly reported by other leading utilities, outcome-based or lagging measures as opposed to leading measures, measures which represent a broad spectrum of EPCOR Water Services performance, and measures which are auditable. Next slide, please. This provides a listing of the current 41 PBR measures across the 3 operations. We did remove approximately 20 of these measures, 10 of which were the safety measures, which we found were not commonly reported by other utilities and felt they were not as relevant to our customers. Several others were removed as they were not outcome-based. These leading measures do track our activities and are still important for our internal tracking because they do influence outcomes. Other measures were removed because they were not broad-based, and for example, our stormwater facility response time, stormwater rebates did not impact very many customers. Some were removed because they were duplicates. For example, we had 3 measures of odor at Gold Bar, and some were found to not be commonly reported by other leading utilities, like our scrubber uptime measure, enhanced primary treatment measure. So although these measures have been removed from our PBR scorecard, they're still being tracked internally and can still be reported for information. Next slide, please. This is a summary table of our proposed new performance measures and the allocated points. Each measure is allocated 5 points, except for the water quality compliance metric, which is allocated 15 points. And this is because our engagement shows that Edmontonians place the highest emphasis on water quality, taste, smell, clarity, and water safety. The middle column indicates if our measure applies to the water or wastewater treatment and wastewater collection operations, or both. We feel these measures provide a very broad and balanced representation of our operational performance while still being streamlined compared to our previous approach. These 18 measures represent 11 of our current PBR measures, which have been unchanged, 5 current measures which have been consolidated into 2, including our energy efficiency and environmental incidence measures, 3 current measures which have been expanded to incorporate either a water or wastewater performance component, like our post-service satisfaction survey, service connections, and planned construction notification measures, and 2 new measures that have been added, safe sanitary system failures and fire hydrants out of service measures, which serve to round out other important areas of our service delivery. Next slide, please. In the report, we are also proposing some changes to our scoring approach. The previous scoring approach included a number of performance measures with points adding up to 100. And there's also the potential to earn up to 10 additional bonus points whenever performance is above the standard. These bonus points can be used to offset underperformance in other measures. The new approach only allows up to 100 points, and the primary change with the proposed scoring approach is the elimination of the bonus points. This change removes any benefits for overperforming on certain measures and generating bonus points, which can then be used to offset underperformance in other measures. The new scoring approach ensures all area of performance are more equally accounted for. In terms of penalties, the current method automatically applies a penalty if scores below 100. And under the new approach, we're proposing penalties may be applied following utility committee review if performance is below a threshold level, for example, 90 points. Reporting on performance measures will continue to provide full explanations of any service level that falls below the standards. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very comprehensive presentation that go from what's currently happening, how we fulfill the metrics, to what you're proposing for the next term. Before I go to questions, Mr. Beckett, want to hear your commentary on both of these items.
Excellent report. I choose to look at it from the perspective of what we need to focus on in the next PBR application. And the things that I pulled out of this presentation are an enhanced focus on consumption forecast, a review of the capital additions that were made during this PBR period because they form the starting rate base for the next PBR period. A bit of additional focus on the capital forecast because in this PBR, capital changed significantly from what was forecast. So when you're looking at a forecast, you want to assess the probability that those dollars will actually be spent. And in the area of the performance measures, this may be a personal bias, but I'm uncomfortable with the removal of the safety metrics. You know, one of the concerns, and it may be theoretical, but it is a concern, is that employees will be pushed to engage in unsafe activities in order to meet other performance objectives. So I'd have some issues around that. And then the application of penalties at the utility committee's discretion, that's a little wishy-washy for me. I think that the rules of the game should be set out clearly in advance and not subject to discussion after the fact. So that's the main things I pulled out of the report and some other material that I've been provided in the last little while. I think it sets the committee up very well for review of the upcoming PBR application.
Excellent, thank you very much. I'm sure committee members will have some questions for you as well. Based on what you said, Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, really appreciate the reports and presentation. Just a few questions on 7.1. So, yeah, I also picked up on that significant change in the capital base compared to forecast. And I feel like this is something I should know after 5 years on utility. But what are the implications? Again, does that capital costs get rolled into the next rate setting? I'm just unclear how and I don't know if, Mr. Beckett, you want to answer, or we can have EPCOR respond. You go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor. So over the PBR term, I guess it's normal to see variances across capital, and it's driven by a number of factors. One will be the growth in the city, the level of franchise work we might need to do, or the level of growth that we're seeing from naturally the city growing. So we will see variances from time to time, and what we do is we prioritize capital during the term. One of the reasons of coming back with a consolidated PBR application is to give us greater flexibility to offset ups and downs. And so to go back to, I guess, answer your original question, what's the implication of it? So during the PBR term, if that capital is not reflected in our forecast, we've not included that, the associated revenue requirement in rates. However, when we come back to rebase, we're requesting utility committee approve the actual level of capital expenditures. And so we would include that in our revenue requirement on a go-forward basis.
Okay. And when does that happen? Sorry,
So that would happen when we bring forward our 28 to 2031 application. Okay. So we'll present our 2025 actuals, our 2026 forecast, 27 forecast.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you. That makes sense. I was also just a bit confused by the variations in depreciation, because I would have thought depreciation is a constant.
One aspect of it is constant, i.e. a certain type of asset will depreciate it over X number of years, but what's driving that difference is the timing of when we might have completed that capital asset and started depreciating it, as well as if the overall capital additions were higher, one would expect higher depreciation. So it's really driven by the timing of the capital additions as well as the level of the capital additions.
Okay, so that speaks to, again, just tightening up some of that forecasting for capital investment, because that impacts the depreciation as well. Okay, thank you. And also just want to make sure that I had it really clear, because at first I was concerned, but when we're talking about increased consumption per customer, that's not necessarily per capita. Again, we're maybe just seeing, again, 8 units connecting to a service instead of 1.
Yeah, and we're trying to, I'll say, transition some of our language, if we will, and I think we're starting to think about it. We need to look at it as consumption per connection, because we're seeing more individuals behind that connection just due to density, different housing configuration. And, to Mr. Beckett's comments, that's something that's definitely a focus for us, to how do we improve our forecasting ability of consumption going forward. So, we're using data and tools from our AMI system to, ensure we've got the best forecast going forward.
Great, and how would we tease that out? Because I think water consumption per capita is still an important measure in terms of water conservation, but how do we do that when, again, the connection density is increasing?
So one of the things we're doing is we're looking at it on a, I'll say, disaggregated level, looking at it by a neighborhood level, because we will see different patterns emerging in different communities, whether it's a mature community or a new community. And so, that's one of the challenges is, we don't have that information, i.e. how many residents are within behind a connection. However, we're, I guess, pulling together all the data that we can to try and improve the accuracy of our consumption forecasting.
Yeah, and just to be able to continue monitoring water consumption so that our conservation efforts don't get missed in there. Okay, well, thank you. That really helps clarify some of those points for me on 7.1. Just wanted to, I have, again, really appreciate the new approach to performance-based, PBR, I forget, reporting, budgeting rates. Anyway, lots of really great changes. I had a few questions, but maybe I'll just pick up on Mr. Beckett's question around employee safety coming out of those.
Yeah, certainly we would agree completely with Mr. Beckett that safety is very important. I guess when we looked at it, and as we presented in our presentation, we wanted to make these new metrics to be very customer focused. We spend a lot of time managing our safety performance. You see that as shareholders as well. We also have incentives built into our incentives at the top of the list, our safety performance. And so our employees are both incented to manage their safety, and we also hold them to account all the way up to the top of the company. I think in the past, when we built in safety into our metrics, we were in a different place in terms of safety performance. Like, we needed to make considerable improvement, and we were looking for any and all ways to do that. We're in a better place today. Certainly, we don't want to go backwards. And I can assure you that if taking it out of this PBR set will not mean in any way, shape, or form we're going to take our eye off the ball with respect to safety. But we appreciate Mr. Beckett's comments around this is something you should consider. Certainly, we could include them, but we're looking to simplify the framework, and this was one way that we felt we were really well covered in other aspects of the way we run the business.
We're out of time, but I'm sure we'll follow up on that question further. Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. And that's, I guess, a good lead into my question. I was going to ask you to continue on that because I noticed you indicated that in your proposed PBR performance measures, you talk about water quality is 15 points, but you mentioned that there's safety built in to that, if I understand it correctly. Can you elaborate then, since you're removing safety, but yet you mentioned safety in the water quality? Can you provide perspective?
Sure, yeah. In regards to water quality and safety, that refers to, I'll call it the public health aspect of water quality. So we want to ensure that, what we're, delivering to our end use customers is, at the absolute maximum quality. Whereas the safety measures that we're proposing to remove in the upcoming PBR were, I'll say, our internal employee and contractor safety measures. So i.e. the injury frequency, as well as some of the leading measures that we have, like inspections and observations.
Okay. And thank you for that. And my recollection is, you may or may not have the numbers before you, but your number of incidents, I'll call them, are been quite low or infrequent. And I'm assuming they're still trending in that way as well, and that will still be measured? That's
correct, and I can turn it over to Frank here, but our trending is moving in a positive direction. And by no means are we going to discontinue tracking or monitoring. We've got like a number of internal measures to track safety, both leading and lagging. Frank, anything to add?
Okay, thank you. And I know, as you indicated, water consumption is up. And have you seen, has the AMI system been in place long enough to determine if that's making an impact? Because I know that's very detailed numbers that you can see versus sending employees out right to check the monitors. Is that in full operation now right across the city?
So we're over 99% deployed. And so we are able to see the vast majority of all of our customers and their consumption. I think one of the benefits we're seeing on the consumption side is we have enabled the leak detection. And so if customers do have a leak or a spike in usage, they are getting an alert that lets them know that there could be something wrong in their home. And so they're able to get on top of it faster, which can help, again, decrease that, the use or the waste of the water.
Thank you. And from my knowledge too, when you talk about leak detection, do you have that in the main systems as well? Because I don't know how our system is aging for that and how the rate of replacement. Are you able to speak about anything with that in regards to water leakage?
So one of our performance metrics that Sakib had talked about was our water loss, which really measures the leakage of our system, that either through water main breaks or leaks that we're not aware of. And so I think our percentage is about 6% compared to a national average of 17%, or even some of the neighboring cities hitting about over 20%. So we do have very low water loss in our system. We do monitor all of our flushing activities, and anything that we know, hydrant use permits, everything is metered as much as we can to make sure that we're able to track that water loss. Okay, thank you. And I guess given my time and what we're seeing outside, you talk about flood mitigation with our dry ponds, et cetera. Probably too early to tell. How is everybody keeping up with the systems as it stands right now? And that may be too early to ask that question. Yep. So on Friday, prior to the storm, we did stand up our Storm Operations Center to get ready for it, and they've been operating over the weekend. We are seeing across the area that our systems are getting full. It's a lot of rain, but we are managing. Our systems are performing extremely well. We have some localized issues in a couple of the neighborhoods. Unfortunately, we did see some basement issues in Beaumaris and Castle Downs. But overall, the system is performing well. Our storm water management facilities, whether it's our dry ponds or our actual storm ponds, are operating as designed. They're filling up. We're able to store the water, which keeps it out of the pipes, which helps us make sure that we're not flooding those basements. Okay, and I do thank you for the report today and the work that EPCOR is doing, so appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Councillor Salvador?
Yeah, thanks so much. Really appreciate the comprehensive report and presentation. A lot of the questions I had were actually answered, but just a few remaining on capital expenditures. So appreciated the details around some of the increases for flood protection, other programs and projects. For the risk-based distribution main renewals, the 18 million or 18.4 million greater than forecast, recognizing that that's sort of a bit of a trend, I'll say, or a rising trend. challenges in specific areas or localized areas. Is that, so it's a trend, but is this something that we're seeing accelerating? Just, I guess, looking for a bit of a commentary around the rate of acceleration there and what we can anticipate to see. Because it seems like we're tapping into greater investments on that front.
So I think overall across the system, our water main break rate is still really quite low. We do see it, of course, higher on our cast iron mains, which is concentrated in some of our neighborhoods. I think when we looked at our acceleration, part of what we're trying to look at is focusing really on areas where maybe we're seeing repeated breaks on the same main or in the same neighborhood, which is impacting those customers on a more frequent basis. And so part of that acceleration is helping make sure we're tackling those areas just from a customer service perspective, that reliability. Overall, when we look at our entire system, though, we are seeing, again, that main break rate is relatively low. We've seen some increases from 24 to 25, but generally still quite low compared to our PBR target.
Right, and my read of this is that this is more proactive renewal. It's a risk-based approach. We're trying to get in early so that it doesn't actually get to that point, correct?
Yeah, trying to mitigate where we're having those repeated breaks on that same area.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then for the Water Services Connection Program, understanding that that has increased just given the pace of development. I apologize if I missed this. What are we anticipating for the recovery costs? Because I know there's some degree of recovery from private developers, even just a rough percentage.
Yeah, I think it's about 80, 85. I might have to just double check. I believe we were 80 or 85%, but I can double check quickly.
Okay, even a rough range. That's really helpful to know. And yeah, just on the performance measures, appreciated the clarity around safety metrics. And then what would our line of sight be, I guess, to those metrics? If not in the PBR, obviously still being tracked, still being monitored, still a top priority. Yeah, what is that line of sight then?
Are you talking about the safety metrics?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, for you as a councillor, at the shareholder meeting, for sure, it's the first thing that we lead off on our operational report. And it's certainly something that we would continue to present and opine on. But as I said, we spend a lot of time on this. I just want to assure you it is our top priority: employee contractor safety, public safety. And so if something comes off the rails, we react very quickly. And the accountability to you, really, if it's not in here, will be at the shareholder meeting.
Great,
so.
Great. Thank you so much for mentioning that. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll take a round. Maybe just circle back to what is happening this weekend. So you mentioned, Tina, that the system is holding up well. I was wondering, how is that reflected in the current metrics? Are we kind of speaking towards some of the stormwater measures specifically? And then also, how will it be reflected in the new framework?
In our current metrics, one of the ways it would be reflected is on the sewer response times. So when a customer does get a backup in their basement and they're contacting us because there is either a blockage in the system or a surcharge in the system, that's our response metrics, making sure that we're responding quickly and that we're actually restoring service within that required time frame. So it would be reflected in that component of it.
And then in the new proposed framework?
So I think we've talked about it, and I think part of where we're looking at is that these events, although impactful, are quite rare. And so I think the water that we're seeing or the rain that we're seeing right now, we probably haven't seen since 2019. And so though we're still doing our investigation and analysis, part of looking at is just given how rare these events are, having a metric based solely on this probably wouldn't reflect the overall performance and the operation of our system and what our customers are seeing on a day-to-day basis and what's impacting them. So there's nothing specifically targeting, I think, a storm event in our new PBR framework.
So the PBR framework would not sort of capture these sort of historical highs then, right?
The historical rainwater highs, you're saying?
As an example, yeah.
Yeah, I think that our system is constantly, as we have these events, we do an investigation. Where did we see constraints in our system? Where did we have issues? It would drive more of our capital upgrades. I think where you would see it in our new PBR is that continued investment into stormwater facilities, dry ponds, LID infrastructure to really help store the water, slow it down so that it's not going into the system and not causing those issues. I think you'd see it more there in our new PBR.
Okay. Do you have a sense of when the advisory will be ending? Do you have a sense of when the advisory will be ending?
So we're meeting again at 1 p.m. today to look at our overall state of the system to where our levels are. And then I think by 9 o'clock tonight, we have a requirement to either update if we can slow down the advisory or remove it. We'll have to wait to see. We're really still investigating, and until those levels come down, it does make a difference. It does help if we can have people just watching how much water they're putting into the system just to make sure that we can keep up with it.
Yeah, I think I was thinking the whole weekend just around like what is currently happening, how is this gonna, how do we, I don't even know what the word is, like monitor, ensure that we're ready for it through the PBR framework, but it sounds like the PBR framework doesn't actually capture this, but more just building the resilience of the system for steady long-term patterns, right?
Yeah, the challenge we have with these metrics is that we're looking for something that is relatively broad-based, relatively frequent, where we get feedback from customers. And so ultimately our customer experience metrics that we built into the new framework will tell us in an event like this, are we responding properly? We'll get that aspect of it. But as Tina pointed out, these events are relatively rare. You can go an entire cycle and not see it, and you wouldn't be reporting on anything. You wouldn't be responding to anything. But certainly we will continue to reflect in our capital planning, building out resiliency of the system, dry ponds, wet ponds, sewer separations, all the things that we've got planned to make the system really more robust as we move forward. So that's ultimately how we're trying to balance this. So.
Just want to circle back to the safety measure, because I feel like as a council, we're kind of having a similar conversation about our council priorities. What you put out, what I guess priorities you put out publicly sends a very different message than what you kind of hold more internally. And I appreciate there's going to be a lot of internal measures, but do you worry that it might send a different message publicly? Because I know we're struggling with that on our end. I mean, it's a very different conversation, different things that we're talking about, but that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and certainly this is something that when we started talking about it, we wrestled with internally as well. We do not want to send the wrong message externally, but to a large extent, it is something that we diligently manage internally. It is something that we put a lot of focus on. And ultimately, we felt if we're going to simplify the framework, customers shouldn't have to pay us for this. We should just do it. It should be table stakes. They shouldn't have to say, hey, we're gonna give you money so you can operate safely, or we're gonna make sure that we're not gonna take away money from you to operate safely. We should be operating safely, period.
Absolutely, thank you.
And that's really the way we look at it.
I am out of time, Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's a really, really interesting take on that tension. And I do really appreciate the customer focus of the new proposed framework. I think it's really strong and sets us up for I don't know, thinking about it in the right ways. So appreciate that. You know, one nuance that I don't think I had understood previously, when we look at the customer satisfaction rating, that is exclusively sort of in that emergency resolution context. And so I'm just wondering what options you maybe explored to capture some of the other customer interactions that are had with the utility. So I'm thinking, billing calls, just being able to, if you have a question about your service, I think inevitably the target would be lower. People might just be unhappy about the cost of their bill, and we don't necessarily want to hold you to that. But even things, how quickly do people get their phone call answered? Any thought on measuring those considerations?
So we did look at different ways in terms of how we could measure the customer experience. And part of the challenges is we're a large utility with a number of different operations, both water and electricity. And so we also wanted to make sure that we had a measure that we can act on as well. And so, those are other measures. We do track internally items like escalations and, trend on them. However, we felt, the most direct way to measure our impact was the post-service audit, I think is how we refer to it. So, when we have as you referenced, when we have an emergency situation, how did we respond to it? What was the experience left with the customers? And there's a bit of I guess, learning that comes from that. So short answer, to develop one single metric is a bit challenging, but we felt this captured, the key interactions that we have with our customers.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I'll say off the bat, I don't typically hear in my office that like, I was on hold for 30 minutes and we're really frustrated. So I think it's not that I don't think that service level is being provided, but as Councillor Salvador said, just sort of that line of sight. I do remember the escalations we do see at a shareholder level, so I think that's really helpful. But maybe again, one of those internally tracked metrics in terms of how long people are waiting and what that experience is like for them.
So we do track our hold times internally, as well as the number of calls that come in and then the number of calls that are answered. So customers who may have hung up in the meantime, either because they've listened to the messaging and it could be positive that they got the information they need, or they didn't want to wait. And so we do track that internally.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Really pleased to see the number of connections completed in 6 weeks maintained. Again, that's a really important one. I know we've talked a bit about some of the tensions with disconnections and delays there. I don't know if my mic, is it cutting in and out? So yeah, any thoughts on that?
So we have recently modified our processes. So I think initially, earlier this year, we did even hit a time where we were seeing almost 10 weeks for a disconnection. Normally, we were about the 6-week time frame, 6 to 8 weeks, similar to a meter installation. We've revised our processes so that we're now 3 to 4 weeks for disconnection to meet the developer timeframes, just based on feedback that we've received from council as well as from developers directly.
Great, and again, we can track that outside of this process, but still have a line of sight on it.
Yeah, so we do track it internally. They're tracking the number of demolitions. Part of the challenge with those is we can't go there unless they're ready to meet us on site. And so part of that time frame could be that we have a developer who is out of town or they're just not available. And so we have to actually book an appointment because we do have to enter the building in order to remove the meter. And that's the tricky one about that. It's not something we can just go on by ourselves or just at our own frequency or our own timeline. We have to have an appointment with them.
Okay, great. And I know I just have a minute left. So the last one was just construction notification. I was wondering how you're going to measure that, because I know for the city, for example, we often run into trouble where we might send it out on time, but there's delays with Canada Post, for example. And then just also wondering if we're looking at planned versus unplanned road closures or total days of closures, recognizing the significant impact that construction can have on the road network. In 20 seconds, I'm so sorry.
So with the notifications, we do measure. In some cases, we're actually hand delivering them. So we are getting that immediate kind of door knocking, phone calls. We have a robocall. So we do have a number of ways of contacting customers. For the unplanned and planned, I think this is a work in progress. It's something that we are working very closely with the city operations group on. How do we try to really minimize the impact on customers, given how much construction and the development, we want to be able to support that development, support those new connections, support those services, but try to minimize the impact on citizens.
Great, thank you. Just to quick follow up on that, because that's a feedback we hear a lot about. Why can't EPCOR and City Court or ACO or whoever coordinate better on these constructions? How would that be? Can you just clarify for me which indicator would that be capturing?
So I don't know if it would be a specific indicator. Again, if they're calling into our dispatch, it is still measured in our satisfaction scores.
It'd be a service customer outcome.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, developers who are wanting their services are measured on the connection time frame. We do have a number of working committees with the city where we are looking to, especially in the downtown core, they're meeting on a regular basis to really look at those projects. How do we make sure traffic's flowing? What projects can we defer? What projects we're working with ACO, with TELUS, all of the utilities together with the operations group to really try to make sure we're trying to get the work done with the least amount of impacts possible.
Thank you. Ms. Rebecca, do you have advice on this?
This has been a very good discussion on performance measures. But I want to remind Utility Committee that you have broad supervisory authority over this utility. And if it comes to your attention that something has gone offside, like safety or customer satisfaction, you can impose conditions on the utility over and above those contained in the PBR. So it's not like you have no, you don't just let it run and sit back and watch for the results. You have to be aware of whether or not the utility is operating prudently. An example of that, for instance, would be preparing for this kind of rainstorm. Whether the utility is actually focused on safety, which you will observe through other reports that you get, and whether or not you're seeing signs of customer dissatisfaction. Any of those things could come back through Utility Committee as a further obligation on the utility going forward.
That we can incorporate into the PBR process.
Over and above the PBR process.
Okay. So then we can introduce some of those conditions as we move forward with the, whatever the implementation of PBR.
That's right. It shouldn't be done lightly because you don't want to interfere with the management of the utility. But if there is an obvious problem, you do have the authority to do that.
Do you have any suggestions for conditions at this point?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you. I also wanted to follow up on a point that Mr. Beckett raised earlier about the penalties. One, I was wondering, how did you land on the $2.4 million number? And then two, are we going to get another discussion like this just to set that expectation and framework so that's not so wishy-washy?
Okay, so the first part of your question, Councillor, the 2.4, that's grounded in what we originally established as part of the PBR penalty framework. So that's, I guess, we've carried that over. So there's no, magical science behind that number. That was the level of penalties we would have, maximum we would have faced under the current PBR framework. And so we've used that kind of going forward. And so to your second question, we're hoping this would be, the forum where we could get some perspectives from Utility Committee, how they felt about the penalty framework. And to Mr. Beckett's point, the reason we moved away from an automatic framework to something where there is some, ability to have a conversation to understand the context as to why a certain performance measure was met or not met, we thought that allowed Utility Committee with broader discretion to understand the context. Was this something that was inside of EPCOR's control? Was it something outside of EPCOR's control? So, to Mr. Beckett's point, the Utility Committee has broad jurisdiction and authority. And we felt instead of just having an automatic framework where, the penalty is automatically applied, it's worthy of having a conversation. So we're interested in getting that feedback because what we would like to do is come back in November with our PBR application with a proposal that is informed by the perspectives of the Utility Committee. If that means coming back to a subsequent Utility Committee meeting, we're happy to do that.
I think for me, I would like to, did you want to add?
No, go ahead.
I think I wouldn't mind some more objective, indicators for what could trigger that, and at what point do we then have that more contextual conversation?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know about others, but because I feel like it's a big deal to kind of go all the way there.
Yeah, it's a bit open-ended now, and
Yeah.
so we appreciate this feedback and Mr. Beckett's comments for sure. So we could take that away and maybe perhaps work with Mr. Beckett and administration and try and put a box around this and say, this is what it would look like, this is this potential outcome, so that you're not starting with a complete, I think what you're telling us, we don't want to start with a blank piece of paper. It's like, we have this problem, now pick a number between 0 and 2.5 million or something. So, which is, I think, what you're trying to avoid. So we get that, and we can come up, we can take a look at it and come back with a little bit more of a proposal that is not so wishy-washy, if I can put it that way. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Is that an alarm? No, we're okay. Seeing that there's no question, there's also no motion to accept this. I think we'll just, both of these are information report. So I don't know if anybody wants to sign up just to say a few things about this. Otherwise, I might just wrap it up with a few comments. You want to go? Go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
I'll make it short and sweet. Since I'm still I consider myself very new in this committee, and the learning opportunities here are endless. And I do thank EPCOR for their work. And we've seen already a couple of incidents where pressure has been put on, such as the past weekend. And keeping us informed and updated is significant because, as you all know, the community reaches out to us on a regular basis and consistent basis over the weekend, looking for updates, and any updates that you can provide to us is very, very significant and important as well. And this report has been educational for me, and I thank you for what you do.
Great, thank you. And maybe just some thoughts on this. I actually thought 7.1 was a positive news story, just to demonstrate that, you know, we have an oversight model here where it's a utility committee, utility advisor, and then the utility itself. We set lots of expectations. We have a lot of discussions about, you know, what should these rates be, what goes into them, what are the considerations. You know, certainly the report on this past year has demonstrated that because of that model, we can consistently see the performance. And, you know, by far the majority were very much on track, and those that are not on track is like 0.1% below. And so, you know, my takeaway from a lot of that is we have a model that is working. And no, I appreciate Mr. Beckett's comment as well around the oversight role. And I think because we have a model that is working, you know, there's a lot of conversations going on in the province around utility models and governance. And I think we have something here that is working. So I just want to, you know, commend you on that. You know, I think there's a few things that I feel like out of today's conversation, there's not quite a closure, but I think we'll have, I think there's a few other opportunities in the coming months that will kind of keep chatting about it until the formal application is submitted in November. For review for next year, and hopefully you've gotten some feedback from this forum, because I think that's what you were looking for coming in. That you've gotten some takeaways to continue to shape those indicators and that framework. So thank you for being here. I know you've had a very busy weekend, and I look forward to seeing how we continue to build that robust system and resolve the challenges where there might be. So thank you. So we don't need to vote on anything. We'll just, okay, but you can go. Thank you very much. We'll let you deal with all the stormwater issues right now. But we'll bring up our delegation for 7.4. And then after the presentation, we'll invite the speakers to speak. So we'll have an administration to present, and then we'll have the speakers after.
Ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, great. So good morning, Utility Committee. Today we're going to be presenting preliminary recommendations for addressing illegal dumping at apartments and condos. So this is in response to a council motion in March of 2026, but certainly something we're very well aware of and have been working on for some time. So because this topic touches across a number of different branches and departments, brought a bit of a cross-departmental team here. So to my left is Chris Fowler, who's our branch manager of Waste Services. We also have Dave Jones, Chief Dave Jones, I should say, the Chief Bylaw Officer and branch manager of Community Standards. We also have Caitlin Zarabeski, who we hear often about, especially this past weekend in terms of road closures and potholes and those types of things. And so she'll be here representing from a cleaning aspect. As well, online, we have Ryan Koss, who's our Director of Business Integration and Technical Services within the Waste Services branch. So with that, I'll hand it over to Chris to walk through our presentation.
Thanks, Craig. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to return today to continue our discussion of illegal dumping in our community. The motion on the slide was passed at the March 2026 Utility Committee, and today we will be discussing our report, which evaluates and recommends actions to aid in the reduction of illegal dumping. Next slide. Thank you. A quick reminder about illegal dumping. It is defined as the improper disposal of waste on public or private property. Illegal dumping is the disposing of waste in an unimproved location or putting waste in a container not authorized for your use. Illegal dumping in Edmonton is prohibited under the Community Standards Bylaw and Public Spaces Bylaw and provincially via the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act. Next slide. Thank you. There are a number of players in the city that are connected to illegal dumping, as the city manages illegal dumping through an integrated interdepartmental approach. That's why I brought some friends with me today. Outside of the city, property managers and owners are also involved. So quickly, Waste Services provides residential waste collection, drop-off services, waste processing, and waste education. When illegal dumping is reported to 311, Community Standards conducts investigation and enforcement. While illegally dumped waste on public property, like Parkland, is addressed by Parks and Road Services. Outside of the corporation, illegally dumped items on private property are the responsibility of the property owner. Next slide. Waste currently provides a number of programs for all residents to ensure residents know how to correctly manage their waste and have the opportunity to do so. Residents can bring scrap metal, styrofoam, tires, and appliances without refrigerants to eco-stations free of charge. To reduce cost barriers for residents to drop off other large items such as furniture and appliances with refrigerants, fees at eco-stations and the UWMC are partially subsidized by waste utility rates. As well, disposal is free of charge at 8 of our Big Bin events, while eco-stations host 4 free weekends per year where all fees are waived. Waste Services educates residents on proper sorting and proper waste disposal through the WasteWise app, printed and digital resources, outreach, as well as school and public education programs. Meanwhile, the excess waste program is also available to apartment and condos to support property managers and residents. Next slide. Thank you. Hearing that residential property owners still face some challenges in managing illegal dumping on their properties, we conducted a public engagement in late 2024 for apartments and condos. We heard from residents and property managers that the most commonly illegally dumped items are furniture, mattresses, and bags of garbage. Residents and property managers also shared their perspectives on the contributors to illegal dumping, including lack of access to waste drop-off programs, the disregard for rules and limited accountability, waste program changes and waste allocation, low awareness of waste sorting expectations. After collecting the feedback from apartment and condo residents and property owners, we conducted jurisdictional scan and research on potential solutions in 2025. This work identified several additional services that we could offer to help address the challenges. Thank you. These recommendations aim to remove barriers, share best practices, and increase awareness of proper disposal and the impacts of illegal dumping. To improve the eco-station experience, we are considering 2 potential enhancements. The first enhancement is to adjust the free weekend program to include weekdays to spread out visits. And the second is introduce public wait time tools to help residents plan their visits for less busy times. To increase awareness, we are investigating enhanced education for both property managers and residents. To support property managers, we are creating a resource with best practices to prevent illegal dumping at their properties. This will include best practices in environmental design, tenant education practices, and site monitoring practices. To support residents, we plan to run an education campaign in 2027. We're also considering mailing educational materials to all apartments and condo units at 1 to 2 year intervals. The goals are to help new and existing Edmontonians understand proper waste disposal with a focus on large items. During the public engagement, property managers provided feedback that the fine structure in the community standards bylaw is not sufficient to serve as an effective deterrent against illegal dumping. To action this, an increased fine structure will be investigated by administration for council's consideration. Lastly, we are investing in a large item collection program for both curbside and communal collection. This program would pick up furniture, mattresses, large appliances, and other bulky items. These are not currently accepted for regular collection. We're evaluating 2 service models, a pre-scheduled collection or an on-demand collection. After completing the evaluation, we plan to run a pilot in 2027. Next slide, please. Thank you. Detailed analysis of these programs and enhancements is ongoing. Final recommendations will be based on effectiveness, financial, social, and environmental impacts. Some of the proposed options can be implemented using existing resources, while others, such as the large item collection program, are anticipated to require additional funding. We will include the final recommendations along with the associated budget requirements in the 2027 Waste Services rate filing, which is scheduled to go to Council in Q4 2026. Thank you, and we're available for your questions.
Great, thank you. First, Mr. Beckett, do you have any comments that you would like to share on this item?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to our speakers. Before we go to the speakers, I want to share my expectations for the conduct of everyone participating to ensure a safe and inclusive environment and workplace. These expectations apply to both in-person and virtual attendees. Hearing from the public is an important part of Council's process, so we know the full diversity of opinions that exist in our community. As meeting chair, my role is not to moderate the nature of the content being discussed, but to ensure behaviors support a safe, respectful, and neutral space for my colleagues, city employees, and the public. Disrespectful comments, including those directed at individual staff members or other speakers, profane language or gestures, and behaviors such as shouting, cheering, or clapping, or political campaigning will not be tolerated. In addition, use of the raise hand feature, chat, emoticon response, or AI note-taking tools in the virtual meeting are not permitted. I will direct the clerk to have security remove anyone violating these expectations. I will not provide additional warnings. Once removed, the person will not be permitted to rejoin the meeting. This meeting is being live streamed and everyone is welcome to watch online. And I think most of you have done this before. For those online, you will have a timer that you'll see, and for those in person, there is at the counter, but you also have a light in the room that will tell you when your time is up. So with the first speaker, we have Donna Monkhouse. Donna,
hello.
Hello. You have 5 minutes. Please go ahead. Welcome.
Okay, well, thank you. Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak again. My name is Donna Monkhouse, and I am the Executive Director of the Alberta Residential Landlord Association. I've spoken in the past many times on behalf of our membership with respect to waste issues. On March 9th, the Alberta Residential Landlord Association presented survey results from their multifamily property owners regarding waste management. While illegal dumping was highlighted, the broader issues raised by our sector were not addressed in the resulting report. At this time, we raised several issues with respect to the waste removal and provided some recommendations. The report that was presented today by Waste Administration deals with mostly illegal dumping, of which some of these suggestions would be helpful. The report does not deal with the issue that we are currently facing, which is the overflowing bins due to the reduction of waste pickups. Yes, we were given the option to have excess waste pickups at an additional cost of $6 per unit, escalating our costs. We have been asking for solutions to our problems for more than a year, with no solution being implemented, only continually reports being done. Recent reductions in city waste collection services have significantly worsened the situation. Overflowing bins are now common, leading to household garbage being left outside, not only by tenants, but also by neighboring residents due to their waste reduction services. Our key concerns and requests are restore service levels, reinstate previous collection frequencies, or provide additional pickups at no extra cost. Current fees, $6 per unit for extra waste, have driven costs well beyond prior levels. Increase flexibility, allow buildings to access private waste providers when city services do not meet operational needs. Current service levels appear based on average rather than site-specific demand. We need more flexibility with our waste removal. Address cost impacts. We are incurring rising expenses for excess waste removal and are now facing fines for conditions largely beyond our control. Focus on root causes. Overflowing bins, not just illegal dumping, are driving the issue. Education and higher fines will not resolve capacity shortages. Act immediately. Waste conditions at peak times, mid-month and month-end, are unacceptable, affecting tenants and property standards. If sites have to incur costs for excess pickups, why not reinstate their services until there is a resolution? While some proposed initiatives may help long-term, immediate action is required to address overflowing bins and escalating costs. Reinstating adequate service levels would be a more effective and cost-efficient solution than the current model. At this time, no detailed cost estimates have been provided to stakeholders on reinstating previous collection frequencies. However, based on current conditions, current costs are already higher under the reduced service model due to $6 per unit extra waste pickup, private removal of excess waste by landlords, and labor costs to manage overflow and reload bins. Reinstating prior service levels would likely reduce total system costs. Overflows, the primary driver of complaints and cleanup costs, would decrease. Fines and enforcement burdens would be reduced. Reliance on paid extra pickups would decline. The question should not be what reinstating service costs in isolation, but rather how does the cost of restoring adequate service compare to the significantly higher combined costs currently being borne by property owners and passed on through the system. While no formal cost projections have been shared, we can confirm that the current reduced service model is already more expensive in practice. Once excess pickup fees, private waste removal, and operational impacts are included, reinstating adequate service levels would likely reduce overall system costs while immediately improving our conditions. Thank you. My apologies. I heard the dog started barking in the middle.
No worries. Thank you very much for being here. Next, we have Scott Sable, Oak Point Development. Yes, I think there's a mic button there. No, try again.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
There you go, 5 minutes. Go
Good
ahead.
morning, Council. My name is Scott Zabel and I represent Oak Point Developments. I appeared before Council in March to discuss the challenges that we're facing since the three-stream waste collection system was introduced. Rather than repeat those points, I wanted to focus on the recommendations contained in the two reports before you today for illegal dumping and for apartments. And we have direct experience. After reviewing both reports, I noticed none of the recommendations appear to address any of the suggestions brought forward by any of the speakers in March or for some of the meetings that we had over the last few years. One report stated property managers engaged through workshops, surveys, resulting in hundreds of response and direct submissions. I participated in those workshops and surveys and provided suggestions through that process as well during my presentation in March. However, I didn't see any of those ideas reflected in the recommendations in these two reports. Illegal dumping existed before the current waste strategy and will likely continue to exist. However, in our experience, the increase significantly over the last 3 to 4 years has been terrible. In my view, major contribution factors has been the reduction of the garbage bin size capacity on our properties and changing from a weekly to every second week for a pickup. This three-stream system is a good concept and works for residents who use it properly. However, people who drive onto private property or haul waste from somebody else's property to avoid disposal costs have already demonstrated that they are not interested in following the rules or properly separating their waste. Whether motivated is by convenience, cost, or belief that they won't be caught, these individuals will unlikely be affected by education campaigns and additional signage. It's also important to distinguish between tenants' issues and illegal dumping. If one of our tenants leaves a couch, furniture, or other items beside a bin, that's a lease enforcement issue, not an illegal dumping issue. We can identify these tenants, require them to remove the items, and if they fail to do so, we can charge them for the cleanup. When I refer to illegal dumping, I'm talking about some people with no contact to our property who arrive with trucks, trailers, vehicles, and dispose of their waste on our property bins. This activity has become noticeably more common in recent years. As I've noted in March Utility Committee meeting, we've also taken significant steps addressing some of the problems. Our bins are locked, our recycle and organic containers are now secured at a dedicated post so they can't be tipped over or removed or stolen. We have security cameras throughout all of our properties for the last 10 years. Despite these efforts, reporting incidents to bylaw enforcement often feels ineffective from property owners' perspective. Officers may investigate, gather evidence, and issue fines, but the city collects those fines. We as property owners remain responsible for the cleanup and the associated costs. As a result, there's very little incentive for us to call 311 and report incidents, as doing so does not help remove the dumping materials or recover any of our costs. We understand and support the goals of the three-stream collection system, and most of our tenants understand how it works. When they have questions or concerns, they reach out to us and we help them separate the items to the proper bins. The challenge is this bi-weekly garbage collection causing bins to reach capacities more quickly. Our garbage bins have been reduced in size, and once they're full, people do not want to wait for the next collection. They simply walk across the street and dump their garbage in our bins or on the ground. My recommendation is straightforward: restore weekly garbage collection until Waste Management identifies and implements a more effective long-term solution towards illegal dumping. It's not fair to place the burden on this growing problem on property owners and managers. We didn't create the issue, yet we're expected to absorb the cleanup costs, respond to complaints, and manage consequences. At the same time, we're not permitted to hire a private waste collector as required. We are required to use the city services for full-time services. There will always be this issue of illegal dumping, but the problem has clearly worsened over the past 3 to 4 years. Anyone you talk to who walks, bikes, drives around the city can see these increases at most businesses and multifamily business or buildings. It's no longer an isolated to a few locations, it appears throughout many parts of the city. It's time to acknowledge the reality of making changes to reduce this problem instead of continuing to shift responsibility onto us property owners. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Scott. Finally, we have Christopher Badorf. Come on up, please. Good morning.
There we go. Turn it on. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this topic today, and thank you also to the Waste Services Branch for their report, their engagement survey or summary, and presentation, to which my presentation will review. Next slide, please. Currently, communal waste collection utilizes standardized metal container bins, or commercial bins, in which residents dispose of waste through plastic lids. The height of these bins range from 3 feet to 4 feet 10 inches. Bins either are placed directly on the ground or are mounted on 6-inch to 8-inch casters, permitting relocation of these bins. Next slide, please. Bins are unloaded by Waste Services staff utilizing a front-loading compactor truck. These trucks are required to approach communal bins directly or have caster bins relocated directly in front of the vehicle. These vehicles are 10 meters in length and require a turning radius of approximately 13 meters. Next slide, please. I just wanted to touch on kind of the understanding of the standardization of communal collection for anybody in the room. So administration's report and presentation highlighted abandoned waste and stolen services as the 2 categories researched, yet have not accounted for a 3rd category of scavenging, which is colloquially known as dumpster diving or binning, in which individuals access communal bins and will remove items, creating a situation of unauthorized access to bins, similar to stolen service, and waste deliberately being placed in inappropriate places, similar to abandoned waste. Next slide, please. Administration's engagement summary identifies 4 drivers to illegal dumping. I have actually summarized these 4 into a single key driver of convenience. It is convenient to use waste services illegally when there is a benefit financially, in a person's time, in their effort, or in their morality. Next slide, please. Current programs to reduce illegal dumping include drop-off locations, education, and enforcement, but these come with limitations. So I've just placed what administration's report and engagement survey have identified, just for everyone to be able to see it. Next slide, please. Drop-off locations suffer from a lack of sites. Eco stations and the residential transfer station are dependent on vehicles for access. Waste Services supplements these sites with big bin events, but big bin events are synchronized across 8 locations at 8 different times, rather than simultaneously at 8 locations on the same dates. So unfortunately, if you miss your closest event, the next one may be on the other side of the city. Next slide, please. The city has put tremendous effort in educating Edmontonians on the 3-stream system, but not all Edmontonians receive the same information to help them to make better decisions. Communal collection residents receive 0 information regarding their collection dates. The WasteWise app will only state that you receive communal collection and where the next big bin event is. It does not actually identify when a Waste Services truck will come and collect your bin. So then questions start to appear. Is it tomorrow or is it next week that I get collection? Should a resident hold on to their waste if their bin is full? How can they plan if they don't have the information needed? The city's WasteWise app is advertised as being accessible in 14 languages, yet only 6 languages available are identified in the 2021 census as being in the top 14 languages in Edmonton based upon the population's knowledge of languages. So I've actually, on the left-hand side of the table, I've actually placed what the WasteWise app will actually translate into, and then on the right-hand side is what Statistics Canada has calculated in the census of 2021 regarding the population's knowledge of languages. I've also, in blue, I've also highlighted what each language's translation of recycling is, because I need to understand if there is mutual intelligibility between certain languages and language families. So resources from Waste Services, unfortunately, are also English only, available only online, and do not use standardized pictograms or symbols, except for the recycling symbol. Next slide, please. After 4 years of research and engagement, Waste Services recommendations are to investigate enhancements and delivery and a large item collection program. So I have included recommendations that can be actionable by Waste Services. And I'm out of time.
Great, thank you very much. I'm going to go to Councillor Elliott first, since you selected this.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Monkman, are you still online by chance?
I sure am.
I've got a question for you. I think I've got the answers here as we were moving forward, though. Are you able to elaborate when you talk about, well, I just want to ask, from your perspective, have you seen the change due to the 3-stream system being implemented and or the reduction of collection? Are you able to provide your insight?
Yeah, mostly it's the reduction of the services. So I've had members call me that have never seen this before. The communal collection was there, all of a sudden their services dropped off on their waste removal, and so now that's what's causing problems. So it really wasn't the addition of the communal, it was the reduction in the waste removal.
Okay, thanks. And I just wanted to find out, and so you're advocating for the return of the previous collection model, is that correct?
Absolutely. Until this is rectified, until everything comes into place nicely, yes.
Okay, and my last question for you then, was it on a weekly basis? Because where is it now? Is it every 2 weeks?
It depended on the site. It depended on the sites. There was never a standard, which seems to be what's happening now. It was always like, if your waste needed pickup twice a week, you got twice a week. You had a bigger bin, or you got twice a week. So they worked better with the sites directly at that time. Now this is what you get. If there's an issue, we'll look at it. So.
Okay, I appreciate that. And that's my questions for the speakers. I'll just wait for administration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan?
I just mine it for speakers too, if Councillor Salvador.
Sorry,
oh, sorry, mine are for the panel. So
okay, sure. Councillor Salvador?
Yeah, just a brief clarification for Speaker Batdorf. Also, those were very comprehensive, and I'll have questions for administration to follow up. I just wanted to make sure I understood the concern you raised about the lack of sites for drop-off locations and just the timing of the big bin events.
The lack of sites is more the fact that with the big bin events, they will move locations across the city. So if you miss the Big Bin event closest to your residence, the next Big Bin event can be across the city. I believe the last two bin events that are advertised, the second last one is in Millwoods, and then the very last one is Castle Downs. So if you live in Millwoods and you have to work on the weekend, or you have a family emergency and you have a refrigerator that is sitting in your garage and you really don't have any way to get it because you may not have a car, or you may have a friend that might be able to help you, they might not be able to drive next weekend all the way to Castle Downs. So what do you do with that fridge, or what do you do with that pile of waste?
Right.
If you can't access it.
Right, okay. And did you have any thoughts around, and I'll ask this of administration, but the large item collection program, some of the ideas around the pre-scheduled collection options?
So with the large item pickup, I think I would recommend just at the very immediate kind of resolution would be to, I would say for the city of Edmonton, to co-locate bins for large item pickup at sites that are experiencing perpetual abandonment of large items.
Okay.
Because if people are dumping large items at, say, a very large affordable housing provider, it's in the consciousness of certain members of the community that is where they can dump it at. So why not locate a bin that they can actually use it to dump, and then just have it removed by waste services, and then we can work on educating people not to dump on private property.
I see. Okay, thanks for that. And then just around communal collection residents not receiving the info on collection dates, again, I'll follow up with admin, but what's the granularity of information that they do receive then?
They don't receive any information. So if you are in a multifamily complex that receives communal collections and you put in your address into the WasteWise app, it just gives you the Big Bin events on the calendar. It doesn't tell you when your bins are being collected. It doesn't tell you the frequency. Before 3Stream, Edmonton dumpsters used to have an M or a T or a W or a TH or an F, and it would actually tell you when your dumpsters would be removed. So that way, if your dumpsters are full, if you're a responsible, resident, okay, I'll just hold my garbage for one more day until it's dumped, and then I'll put my garbage into an empty dumpster instead of throwing it on top of the pile and then having waste services staff say, I can't collect that, or possibly create a OH&S situation where, staff might get injured because of the amount of waste that they are collecting.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarity.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you. Just to Speaker Monkhouse, thank you for being here, and thanks to all our speakers for being here. I just wanted to get a sense from you in terms of how we're able to share and how your members are able to share data with the City of Edmonton so that we all have a similar picture. Because I think something I've still, I am wondering if every time that there is illegal dumping at one of your members' sites or overflow due to less service, does that get reported, and is it something that we can capture just to get the scale?
Well, I would hope they call it. I would hope they call it in. I get tons of pictures all the time from members. I get calls, what's happening with this? I give them the waste people to call. I send it out on all my broadcasts. Here's who you can contact with respect to issues with your waste, those kind of things. If there is illegal dumping big items, most of our landlords just remove it because that's what we've done all the time. The garbage that is left that doesn't fit in the bins is pulled aside, waited for extra pickups, and then put back in the bin once that's picked up so that it can be picked up again.
Right. Okay. And do you know, and I can ask administration too, just in terms of, are there barriers to reporting? Like, does it just take a lot of time to be able to say, hey, my bin is full? Like, you can't just do it through the 311 app, for example.
I don't know. The excess waste program, unfortunately, I don't access it myself, but so I don't believe there's an issue with it. They just email or they fill in something online and they get the excess waste pickup, but they'd have to clarify that.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thanks very much.
Great. Maybe I'll stay with you briefly, Donna.
Okay.
I know that you get a lot of pictures. I get a lot of pictures too, and a lot of these pictures, I also see it is the mattresses, it is the, the 2x4s, the things that should be taken to some of those other facilities, and I know you're talking about the fundamental issue of increasing service, but in my mind, I'm like, if we can kind of stop the large items from being dropped off into the bins, it creates a space for the residents not to leave their bags, outside and actually properly put it into the bins.
Most of the large items never hit the bin. So if somebody's dumping a couch or a bed or a chair or whatever, that never hits the bin really. I've never heard that one. Most of what we have right now is the garbage, the overflow of the garbage, household garbage that is in those bins. And that's largely because the reduction in the services. And, I can speak to the neighbors as well, because if the neighborhood garbage isn't picked up on time, or if they have too much garbage in their little can, they will walk it over to the nearest residential and throw it in that big bin. So, mostly I don't think anybody's going to reach over and throw their couch into a bin so much as that's just garbage.
Yeah. Okay. No, I appreciate that. I've definitely had postcard petitions mailed to me that had the pictures of those items. But anyways, I take your point, and especially the point about the neighbors bringing things over as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyways, appreciate all the feedback from all the speakers here. I know there will be quite a bit to administration as well. You're welcome to stay for those who are in the room. But thank you for taking the time to be here. Okay, we'll go to questions to administration. I'll go to Councillor Elliott since you selected this first.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'll go to Mr. Jones first. I just want to find out, just curiosity, what's the current fines right now for dumping in this magnitude?
It's like you could see my screen. Hi, good morning. So under Community Standards Bylaw, $250 for common dumping on private property and $1,000 for a large item or construction material.
Okay.
And with Community Standards Bylaw, I will add that we have registered owner liability. So if somebody gets a plate, we can ticket the registered owner of that vehicle. We don't have to prove that they were, there on site or even driving the vehicle at the time.
Okay, and on that note, would that be via like a bylaw or long summons when you get the plate on a vehicle?
That's through like a J444.
Okay, and I know that we're looking at potentially bringing back more information to the committee in regards to maybe increasing those fines. Is that correct? Is being researched?
That's correct.
Okay, and how many of your members do you have assigned, or do they have multiple assignments and this is one of their assignments? Because I can't picture just like there's hypothetically 5 members just assigned for this. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. With 600 calls in 5.5 years, they'd be twiddling their thumbs a lot of the time. So this is assigned to our general duty peace officers. And they have sort of quadrants of the city that they're dispatched to. There's a finite amount of them, and they cover everything, sort of noise to air conditioning complaints to a whole gamut of things. But this is one of their duties.
And I saw in the report between 2021 and 2026 there were 600 complaints. And I know we've had an increase in populations. I'm making the assumption, but I don't want to assume, is that trending upward?
Yeah, I checked in with my team about that, and it's actually remained relatively stable despite sort of the anecdotal information that the dumping is getting worse. So I'm not sure where there's a gap there, but certainly we're not seeing that in what's reported to us through 311.
Okay. And I'm responding, I had a citizen message me and had a question, and I can figure out the answer myself, but I just want to get for the question put out there. The citizen asked, is there any mechanism in place to offset a reporter or a witness going into court? Because I know, generally speaking, right, the judge or JP wants to hear the evidence firsthand, and this citizen was looking at any other mechanism outside of making him or her show up. And can you just provide some
Yeah, I know we talk about this a lot, and I know Mr. Gunther has weighed in on this as well. I'm not sure if he's online, but certainly that's the mechanism that we need. We take a witness statement, and then they're subpoenaed to court, and if they don't show up, then often the ticket will get tossed out.
Okay. And what time? Oh, am I over time? It must be.
Yeah, I feel like you have like maybe 30 seconds left.
Yeah, I'll pause for the next round.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you. Councillor Salvador.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for this report. I want to just dig into the data for a minute here. You know, I think we're hearing quite clearly from speakers that they're feeling like the bins are reaching capacity more quickly and are really calling for increased service. And I want to understand, what does the data say on our end? How widespread is this? Is this something that can be managed and mitigated on a site-by-site basis with specific actions and steps? What data can you share with us?
Yep, thanks for that question. So what I would share is that, you know, since rollout, 14% of sites have experienced a bin that can't be collected due to waste piled in front of it. That relates to about 0.5% of the planned collections not occurring. But that's the only stat that we have in relation to the overflowing bins.
Have we thought about any other, or even questions were being asked around how we're tracking the number of reports or requests or concerns that come in? Do we have information on that? How are we capturing those concerns?
We track, of course, all of the inquiries that we receive from residents, and they're, you know, from communal properties, from curbside properties, and they are a variety of topics regarding their service. We have the opportunity to categorize them. I don't have that data at hand right now about whether they are the number that would be related to overflowing bins. No, I don't have that.
Okay, I'm trying to judge how much does the data that we do have around the blocked bins, how reflective of that is the number of inquiries that we're getting in? Like, is there a pretty good overlap there? Is that a good metric?
I think it is a metric. You know, there's no question, you know, that some sites, 14% of sites having experienced, you know, the inability to deliver service because there's waste piled around it. That is indicative of something. But is that, you know, relating to what was shared here today? There's a relationship, how direct that is, you know, it's difficult to like make that relation, you know, direct.
Right. Okay, I'll think about that. I want to ask about the excess waste program. And without talking about specific properties, you know, there have been a number that have been very challenging in the area that I represent, and just had ongoing issues with overflowing bins, legal dumping, and seems like these properties, there have been many efforts to try to resolve these issues, and the latest I've heard is that we're now tapping into programs like the excess waste program that seem to be so far more effective. Can you just speak to the uptake of the excess waste program? Are we seeing a lot of interest in that, and what results are we seeing from that program?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, so with the excess waste program, there's two forms of it. There is the on-demand and then the scheduled service. For the scheduled service, we have 60 properties that are now signed up to that, and over 300 properties that are signed up for the on-demand.
And can you just spell out the difference there for me?
Yes. So scheduled would be, if you sign up for the excess waste program, we're coming on a scheduled basis to serve that excess waste capacity for your site. And that's up to, for sites, it's up to 50% of their waste, their garbage allocation. So, and then the on-demand, you call us when you need us. So there's two, those are the two different types of service.
Okay. And sorry, you said 60 for the scheduled and then 300, did you say?
That's correct. Yep,
okay.
60 for the scheduled, 300 for the on-demand.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And just in terms of effectiveness or resolving overflowing bins, have we found that this program has been effective? What is the feedback that we've been receiving so far?
Well, the feedback that we received, it is improving the situation, so it is proving effective. Our own observations are as well, you know, through our staff that are in the field. You know what, it is proving effective. You know what, I guess I certainly want to give a nod to both Arla and CCI. They're sharing the information about the program via their newsletters with staff, and they're helping us to spread that information to see a greater uptake.
Okay. That's helpful to understand. With the, so I'm just jumping around here. The eco-station enhancements. So one of the options is to look at including some weekday opportunities just to spread out the times that people are able to access that service. That, to me, that seems like a fairly, I don't want to say easy step, but maybe low-hanging fruit to open up more opportunities. So is that something that we would be able to act on come budget? All of these options, or some of them, I would say, have budget implications. Are there some that we can act on sooner rather than later? And I'm out of time, so I'll come back.
Thank you. Councillor Stevenson?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to start with a few clarifications. Sorry. So again, going with the stats, because I think it's hard to enact solutions when we don't have the data for the full picture of the problem. And sorry, did you say it was 0.5% of instances where there was waste in front of a bin so it couldn't be collected? I think I heard 0.5%, but then I also heard 14%.
Yeah, I can clarify that. Thank you. Yeah, 14%, 14.5% of properties that are currently receiving three-stream collection at one point or another since they began receiving service, the service hasn't been able to be delivered because the bin is blocked. There's waste piled in front of the bin. And 0.5% of all planned collections have not been delivered due to waste piled in front. So the opposition to that is 99.5% of all planned services have been delivered.
Okay, so even though there's 14.5% that it has happened at least once, it's sort of overall not a hugely trending factor. Okay, and do we look at that 14.5% to see if there's some where it's happening more frequently? Do we look for patterns there?
Well, as we've gone through the rollout, what we're experiencing is that sites, when they first transition into the three-stream collection, it takes time for them to transition. So that's most likely to occur in that first 60 to 90 days. And then, the practice of sorting the waste, and that is the key about utilizing the service. The service is planned so that there is, available volume for the site. The key is sorting into food scraps, recycling, and then the garbage.
Just with the excess waste program, can you remind me again if there is a cost for that and what that cost is?
Yeah, there is a cost for that. So it is, it's because it's an added service. So it's $6 per unit for the additional service. If you're on the scheduled collection, the on-demand is $23 per yard collected.
Okay, and how will this program inform potential rate setting in the future? Because I think I sort of hear the tensions in terms of, is this additional service, or is it just the service that's required for these properties, and how we think about that moving forward?
Sorry, I want to clarify. Is that in relation to the illegal dumping recommendations or in relation to the excess waste program?
It's more a question of, is there a more systemic fix to this as we set rates for the next term?
Yeah. No, and in relation to, the excess waste program and its utilization in the three-stream, not every site is finding that they need this. There are sites that go, the change in service, the new service is introduced, they take some time to adopt, and they do well. So it is not every site that requires excess waste.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about, again, I guess it's maybe more like, is there just a rate that properties could choose to opt into? I'm thinking of our, residential, you can get the big bin and just decide that you want that. Will we have sort of a rate built in that will allow people to choose that higher level of service? Or will it continue sort of being on this unit basis?
Yeah, so the excess waste is intended to be, the excess waste program in support of the three-stream collection program is intended to be that outlet. So that we're not contemplating any other, anything greater than that at this time. I guess I would point back to too, like there's many units, many sites that have just had this service for a short period. Like we haven't even completed rollout of the entire city at this time.
Right.
We have a year and a half to go. We're expecting to be completed by the end of 2027. So we're continuing to learn about it. We've had these experiences. We're hearing, what's being shared and contemplating about that. In fact, the excess waste program is an adjustment that we heard. So it's an intentional response.
Yeah, and I will say too, I really appreciate the excess waste program. I think it's excellent and really well designed to remove some of those pressures. I'll just come back, say, I just have a few questions. Again, I really appreciate the focus on sort of the proactive measures that can prevent illegal dumping from happening. And I just want to follow up a little bit more in terms of the steps we can take when it does happen and what that looks like from an enforcement perspective. But I'll come back for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morgan?
Thanks. I was thinking a little bit about Mr. Batdorf's comments there about proximity to neighborhoods and when you can get access to stuff nearby anyways. And I was also looking at the community cleanup program, and it seemed like the community cleanup grant program was a bit of an afterthought in this report. I know I've used it as a community president in Heritage Point. We cleared 9 bins. I was at an event in Steinhauer this spring already for big bins as well. And so why is it not more focused on this in this report here? Is there a reason why we haven't talked about it too much, or?
The community bin grant program?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is, it's actually a service or a program that's existed for quite some time. It's not a new addition. It's not highlighted here because as we were looking to address illegal dumping, like we identified through our outreach and our engagement that there is a gap there about persons having the opportunity to bring their waste to the right point to dispose of it. And that's the intent of, bringing forward a recommendation that a potential recommendation that we're exploring is, to close that gap about, being there, residents not needing to bring it to a location, for them to be able to set it out from where they're at so that it can be collected and doesn't get illegally disposed of.
And so you're kind of talking about the large item collection program then, is what you're...
Yeah, the large item collection program.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. Are we finding that the community leagues and other groups are utilizing this community cleanup grant program as well? Like, is it undersubscribed, oversubscribed?
I'm not real closely connected with it. I am aware, I do believe that all the grant dollars are utilized each year.
So potentially it could use more if, okay. And I guess I was kind of curious, so do we see are we tracking any of who's using it? Are we seeing less illegal dumping in those areas when it is being used? Or those community league big bins events are happening?
The one, the feedback that we have heard about about big bin events actually, and it relates to accessibility, is that, at big bin events, we've heard reports that illegal dumping goes up surrounding those events because when the lines are long, a number of persons are patient and they wait to get in, and others, their patience wears out at a time, and then they illegally dump the items in a nearby. So that's something we heard through engagement, and so it's important. We see the opportunity. We really want to remove barriers so that residents can appropriately manage their waste. That's the focus of the recommendations.
Okay, going back to the large item pickup collection.
Well, and I would even offer councillors as well the access to the eco stations by us reviewing and looking at the opportunity to change access to those free events at the eco stations. Those persons that can transport their waste by vehicle, for them to go when they have an opportunity, when it's not, to make it less busy so that it's more convenient for them. The same with the wait time tool that was proposed in the report as well too. You could then seek to, manage your waste at the right time, but you find the right time for you, so the right thing occurs with that item.
Sure. All right, thanks.
Maybe I'll take a round before I go to the next round. I guess just following up on a couple things from the speakers. Why do residents in multi-units do not get the notification on their WasteWise to say when their pickup day is? That feels like an easy fix.
You know what, the notification that the Wastewise system in regards to their address, it's built for a curbside service. You know, I would offer the opportunity.
Can we build an alternative for multi-unit? Because I feel like notification is really important.
I'd have to take that away.
Okay.
You know what, but I can take that away and we can research that opportunity.
This is an internal thing we're doing, right?
No, it's a service that we purchase. It is, you know, the Wastewise app is actually the predominant use tool for communicating with residents throughout Canada and North America.
I see, okay. By the way, how many multi-unit properties do we have in Edmonton? That's on your docket for
I think
pickup?
the total I heard is around, or I'm aware of, is 3,700 sites.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, 60 on the scheduled access way, 300 may not feel very high, but when you said 14% cannot get that service because they have garbage piled in front of it, that feels really high, right?
It does. I guess one thing I would relate in regards to that 40%, that's of experiencing once. That's not ongoing. You know, and in relation to as well our practical experience about, you know, when it's introduced to sites you need to build that habit of appropriately sorting.
Okay.
So.
Okay, and then just in terms of one of the speaker mentioned that they go to these workshops and provide a lot of ideas, and I think you've captured a lot of that in the attachment 1, but you're not able to kind of implement all of those, correct?
That's correct, Councillor. Like you noted very well, the What We Heard report, that came from engagement with residents and property managers and property owners.
But you cannot implement all of them because?
Well, it is, you know, the feedback that we get, it's in relation to trying to meet that with, you know, what's operationally and financially achievable, as well as within the strategy about our goal is we continue to seek, you know, through the 25-year waste strategy, the diversion of waste for landfill, reducing our community's impact on waste.
So what aligns and what doesn't align? I guess like the thesis here is that large items are going into bins, taking up space that for residents not being able to actually dump the proper garbage that they actually have. But, you know, as one speaker mentioned, illegal dumping also happens well before the rollout of this program, whether it's at donation bins or it's on their site anyways, or in rural country road. So the thesis here is that if we can kind of tackle this problem, it will help reduce some of the challenges coming from other places. But you also heard Donna say that this isn't happening on some of her member sites. I guess what are we actually seeing this? Are we not actually seeing this? Do I mean?
You know, what you summarized and with what Donna shared, but the bin volume is the bin volume, and it can get used in a whole bunch of different ways. And illegally dumped items that are set beside bins, they have, you know, from social nature, there is the risk that you may have your bag in hand, and just because there is an illegally dumped item on the ground in front of the bin, you just add to the pile instead of
So it's sending a signal.
Yep.
And then even if it's not there anymore, after some cleanup, it still sends a signal to maybe neighbors that, oh, this site is okay for you to dump stuff in, which is not okay, by the way. Yeah. I guess my final comment, I feel like we have been talking about this for a while. Why does it need to wait until 2027?
Thank you for that question. You know, rolling out a pilot, and a pilot of this scale where we would be piloting this in neighborhoods across the city.
But are we piloting across the city, or are we piloting in some high incident neighborhoods?
No, we would be piloting it across the city to gain that operational knowledge. What we've heard about illegal dumping is that it's a problem across the city. That's why we wouldn't be targeting. Our intent wouldn't be in a pilot not to just target specific neighborhoods, but to gain that experience, that operational experience in a number of neighborhoods. It takes time as well for us to plan a pilot so that we learn about what are we going to achieve the outcomes, what are the operational impacts, you know, as well the social, environmental, financial concerns. We need time.
But that feels like a much bigger programmatic rollout. Like for pilot, the idea is to start smaller and like build that up. No? No,
I would actually offer is that for a pilot, a well-positioned pilot, we need to become informed about, you know, how it achieves those outcomes or not.
Okay, I'm out of time. Councillor Elliott.
Okay, thank you. I almost want to get a follow-up answer to your question. Please continue on that.
Okay, thank you. I'll try and grab my train of thought. But you know, we need time to appropriately plan a pilot and to resource it so that we can deliver that pilot, see what outcomes we get from it, and make sure that we're capturing the information, because from the pilot, we're going to take that information and then bring it here to Utility Committee for your consideration as a program afterwards. I think it's very tremendously important from our side that we have information that we can plan it well, so that when we're here to discuss about a program, we can have a very well-informed discussion with you, because it will lead to a pilot and a program in the future. There will be, you know what, operational and capital impacts to that.
Okay. My next question is, because I've been contemplating a motion, however, I need to get some more information, so I'm going to try to pull it out of everyone here today. So I know that we're potentially reviewing the increase in fines. And I've also heard too from condo owners and property managers that there's a cost associated to them as well for clearing up excess debris. And I cannot picture them going to small claims court or anything like that. So where I'm going with this from a restitution standpoint, is there, in your contemplating the increase, is there any thoughts going into, like, hypothetically, say we raise a fine, it doesn't have to be, but I'm going to say $2,000. City collects $1,000 from that when it's paid, and hypothetically $500 goes back to the condo owner because they provide a receipt of what they had to pay to pull something away. Is that ever in consideration? So one, through enforcement, we can probably reduce the dumping. Two, it is the city recoups some costs. Three, we can help actually offset some of the costs to those property managers. Is that in consideration?
I mean, I think we're open to explore all potential options. One caveat I might say is we have had occasions where, you know, a building manager were called to report illegal dumping, but it's one of their own tenants. And so really that's a property management issue, a tenancy issue, rather than an illegal dumping. Like, it is illegal dumping, but, you know, it's like me trying to report that my spouse has dumped something on our property that I don't like. It's not quite like that, but you know, you get the analogy. And so there, you know, we do need to make sure that we still have under the community standards bylaw, you know, the fact that everybody, whatever private property we're talking about, has some sort of responsibility to maintain it to a certain standard. So it does open maybe a slippery slope as to what the expectations might be for other private property owners. But
okay. Yeah,
happy to take that one away as we review any and all options.
Yeah, because to offset that, I'm trying to think of a question. I'll come back. The last aspect, given my time, it looks like in the report, unless I make sure I understood it correctly, is there any consideration work with property owners and condo boards about setting up camera systems, right? So that case in point, if you capture a vehicle backing into an area and they're offloading, and you can capture their license plate, and that's a mechanism to the report. One, it takes away from a property manager showing up in court, because you have access, you work in partnerships, you can access that video. They report that and say, hey, on this date is time stamped, we have X vehicle stepping in, and then we have the evidence there. Is that in consideration too in the report? Am I correct on that?
No, within the report, you know, one of the enhancements that we're offering is for, you know, a best practices tool for property managers. You know, one of the elements being, you know, there being a site environmental design, set up your site to make it less attractive to dumping. You know, tenant education as well too. But there is site monitoring was one of the, you know, best, you know, would have been one of those best practices that would be identified. But if you're referring to funding for the sites to install cameras, that is not one of the proposals.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't be looking for a city to install that. It would be through having those partnerships to say, hey, this would be very beneficial to your unit if you were to install this, and then we can use the data from that camera system to help mitigate what you're facing right now. But I'm running out of time here as well, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Salvador is first. Were you first? No. Okay, Councillor Salvador.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. Does the city proactively recommend the excess waste program to certain property owners? How do we engage in those conversations if we're noticing that certain properties are continuing to have issues? Like, do we broach that with them?
Yes, we do. And we've even taken the opportunity with sites that haven't picked up that first suggestion about that. We follow up, our waste inspectors are connected with the site weekly, and they'll remind them of that opportunity, but it is the property manager's, property owner's responsibility to sign them up. We can't automatically sign them up.
Why not?
I guess, just principally, it's their dollars that we'd be committing them to spending. And that is, as it is, you can avoid that, requiring that by proper waste sorting. And it is a challenge. Like, I don't offer that lightly. Changing behavior is difficult, so.
Yeah, and I guess that the root of that question is how do we increase enrollment if the excess waste program is supposed to be that off-ramp? It seems like we're providing that information. How did we land on the per unit fee? Like, is there some thought that can be given there? Is that a barrier to enrollment?
We haven't heard that the the per unit fee or the per yard fee is a barrier. And that rate is set based upon the recovery to deliver the service. Like, it's that utility model. It's recovering the cost to deliver that added service.
Right, and I mean, it kind of comes back to the previous question around how do we factor that in when we're doing rate setting then?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm also just aware of our time. I'm gonna just jump around for a second here. So cleanups themselves, if we, again, are noticing properties are continuing to have issues, it does get to the point on the enforcement side that we would take action and do cleanups, correct?
Sorry, not sure I quite understood. Could you?
So if we're noticing non-compliance, and we have asked a property owner to please clean up your site, and that is not happening, we will do proactive cleanups, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And is
so
that charged back to the property owner?
Yeah, typically our bylaw officers will work with the property owner to encourage them to do it themselves, to make sure, give them lots of timelines and warnings. But as a last resort, then we do send a contractor in to do that cleaning and bill it back on the tax roll.
Okay, have we considered options to shorten that timeline, I guess, from initial inspection or warning?
Yeah, I think some of the timeline that we have is baked right into the MGA, and so we don't have any mechanism to make it shorter. I mean, barring getting the provincial government to change their act.
Okay. I want to come back to my question around what actions we might be able to take sooner. Some of those upstream actions, again, I recognize that some would have budget implications, but have we identified ease of implementation for some of these steps that we might be able to act on?
I'll start and then I'll look to Craig. We are assessing all the options that we're presenting right here. The ease of implementation is something we're considering, but we're going to be bringing those, our plan was to bring those forward for the 2027 rate discussion that's going to be coming in the fall of this year.
I was just going to add, just from a time perspective, if this helps, just my own words, like we're aware this is an issue. This is intended more so as like an information report. We are considering options on the tax levy side in terms of like what funding would be required to help with off-site cleanup, and so that'd be more on the tax levy, and that's why Caitlin is here. If the conversation went in that direction, looking at different enforcement options, and then the building of the details of what a large item collection would look like into the rate file at the end of the year. So unless there's direction on this one, if this helps, still working on it as fast as we can in terms of what are the additional things we can do to help connect property owners and property management companies with the excess waste while we still build out what does a budget look like for illegal dumping cleanup and a large item collection with the other pieces that are in this report, if that helps kind of round it out.
Yeah, that's helpful. And just with my last 20 seconds here, the question around communal collection residents not receiving the information on their collection dates through WasteWise, why not have something physical? It sounds like we used to have that.
Yeah, we did, and that is a possibility. As we look to figure out how to serve that, you would look at the best option to do that at the lowest cost. So.
And we are looking at that?
I can take that away and take that.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. We'll do a bit of a lightning round. I just want to confirm that we do have evidence that the overflow issues are a sorting issue. Like we've done waste characterization studies for those?
Waste characterizations are ongoing. We've seen that. Those are our observations about what's preventing, in some settings, why that is occurring. It is, and predominantly we see sorting, or even, the most difficult one's not even utilization of the other bins, be it the food scraps bin or the recycling bin.
Great, and I think, because again, I think we're feeling a bit of a disconnect in terms of what we're hearing from our staff and what we're hearing from our community partners. And I think that if it is a sorting issue, then the approach taken here is ironclad, makes a ton of sense. Just wondering if that's even something we can share back to our community partners. Just having some evidence again to flesh that out, to say that, hey, this is the root of the problem, and then that helps us focus on what the solutions are that are needed.
Yep, and we continue with our waste characterizations, and we'll share that information and so that it helps highlight the opportunity.
Beautiful, great, that's wonderful. Oh, could we have that information as a memo?
Yeah, when available, yes.
Great, great. Okay, that's a good idea. We can do that as a formal motion if the chair thinks that's a good approach. So I just want to go back. So I think I've heard a few different pieces that make sense to me. I think the site monitoring practices is really a great suggestion, and again, something I think for property managers is a really important thing to do. And I just want to confirm that, again, we don't have a lack of resources. So if a property manager says, hey, I caught this license plate on video doing illegal dumping at my property, that we do have the resources to send out those fines. That's happening on a consistent basis?
Yes, that's correct.
Wonderful. Wondering as well, it seems like it's maybe a bit of a double-edged sword with increasing fines, because again, if it's the property owner or property managers that get that billed back to them, like I see that we want to make it a deterrent, but if again it's outside people that are dumping on their property, they end up with a higher fine. So again, just wondering if we can really combine that with the site monitoring imperative to say like, hey, this is why it's so important that you have evidence that it's not from your property.
Yeah, I'd have to double check with my team, but I think that's a different section. Like the nuisance property approach is a different section of the community standards bylaw from illegal dumping. So we may be able to, when we come back, we may be able to parse that out with respect to increasing one and not the other.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, so the illegal dumping is applied to the person doing the dumping, but if it's just if there's some waste on a property, they get a nuisance property fine.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I think having a clear understanding of that would be really, really helpful. I think that was a good flag around the languages that the education material is available in. Is that something you're able to take away and follow up on?
Yeah, we can take that away.
Excellent. And I think, oh, yeah, I mean, I think Councillor Salvador kind of touched on this, so I appreciate that we can bill them back for cleanup costs. But I do think it's a novel approach that, again, if we're seeing consistent issues with overflowing, that we could automatically enroll them in the excess waste program. Because again, it will be a cost to them, but it seems like we do have the ability to apply costs to folks sometimes when they're not adhering to our standards.
You know what, I think that our best opportunity there is that we can proactively remind them of the opportunity and see on that's impact, because sites, they go through a journey as they get the program, you get introduced to them, and there is sometimes a rocky start and then they start advancing. I was reminded that we are coming back with a waste characterization report in October of this year.
Okay, great. Last one, I know there's a local social enterprise, Evergreen Recycling through Jasper Place Wellness, that do mattress recycling. Have we looked at potential partnerships with social enterprises to deal with some of the more common items that we see?
They are our current contractor for the processing of those mattresses.
And do they don't have any capacity to do the collect, like if there is a mattress that's dumped, do they go out and collect it?
No, the current program is that they collect mattresses from the, from either from the eco stations or from the EWC, so it's centralized collection at this time.
Okay, well, maybe just a thought, again, if there's capacity to expand that contract with them to help reduce some of the pickup costs. That's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Recognizing we're pretty much at time, can I first, unanimous consensus, we can just extend to finish this item? Yeah. And I understand, Councillor Elliott, you do have a motion. But before, so I just want to make sure, before you put it on, administration had a chance to kind of take a look at it. I mean, I will just say, I feel, so my ward was the first ward to get the multi-unit rollout, and I've been hearing a lot about the challenges that's been coming forward for a very long time. And I always feel like leaving the conversation that the solution doesn't always quite match the problem. I'm always feeling like feeling a little dissatisfied with kind of the next step. And I'm feeling that way a little bit right now. And I also feel like just between administration and what the speakers are bringing forward, we're kind of talking about, we're seeing different songs here. Whether we don't have the same stats about what the problem is that we're trying to solve, or we lack this agreement on like what is the solution to that, and I feel like, we'll have this motion on the table, but I don't even know if it gets at the solution that we're really talking about. And, just to the speakers, we're rolling this program out. We're not looking at rolling it back necessarily. And there are different tools for the service level issue that you're talking about that are in place. And I just feel like you're not going to be satisfied with the motion that's going to be coming forward entirely either. And you have some solutions on the table as part of this report that you'll be kind of moving forward on. And I would like to see that kind of come to fruition as well, to see if that will have the impact. So, not looking to kind of change anything with what's proposed in the report. So I guess two things. You'll continue to roll out on these projects proposed, ideally sooner than later, but I understand the constraint there. Number two, I think Councillor Stevenson highlighted a few things that you'll say you'll take away, but I don't know if that's documented. I wrote down at least 4 things: the language issue, the WasteWise app, automatic enrollment in access, like a memo on some stats on like what is actually the problem in these overflowing bins. So I don't know if you want a motion just to capture that.
I think we can just, verbally get back to you. Like, yeah, we'll provide a motion. That's totally fine. That information is readily available in terms of like what it is you're looking for. So we can say, here's our limitations with WasteWise and some of the pros and cons.
Okay.
Here's some of the data we have.
I think I was worried about that being lost with verbal report back.
We can commit to giving you a motion. We've got notes on that, and
Okay.
we'll get a motion back to you. Similar to what we did in the branch and department presentations, where we said we get back to council.
Okay.
We'll just follow up with a motion.
Okay, thank
Or
you.
a memo, sorry.
And then the third piece is yours. Do you wanna just quickly speak to this? Or I guess you will have to actually put the motion forward.
I can put the motion forward, and did you have it available to put it up? Okay. So I'll read this in. Administration provide a report to the Utility Committee with options to mitigate the financial impact of illegal dumping on multifamily housing providers, condo associations, and residents, including 1. Fine revenue allocation. Options to direct a portion of revenues generated from increased illegal dumping fines towards a rebate, grant, or cost offset program for multifamily property owners who incur documented out-of-property costs to remove illegally dumped items left by non-residents. 2. Exemptions and enforcement alignment. Clear criteria under which waste enforcement fines against a multifamily property owners are waived if the property management provides clear evidence, such as the security camera footage, that the dumping was perpetrated by an external third party. And 3. Interim mitigation measures, opportunities to bridge the gap before the 2027 large item collection pilot by providing targeted temporary relief such as specific fee exemptions at eco stations for multifamily property managers clearing illegal dumping area items from their communal bin zones. So I'll try to make it, I know I covered some of the aspects of it. What I'm seeing is that we've heard from like condo units, apartment buildings, et cetera, that incur cost. We see that they've talked about how the reduction of times for the collection has been a factor in the dumping of items in and around their areas. And there's a cost associated to cleaning up these items. In this motion, what I'm hoping that we can have at least a look at is that if we are looking at increasing our fines, we can use a portion of that increase to offset the cost to those condo boards. And this is an avenue to help them mitigate this issue until we can figure out another solution. And 3, before the pilot project incurs, maybe we can look at options that can help offset their costs as well, that they can provide this going to such areas such as the Eco Center to take care of these items without cost.
So maybe I just propose, this is a fairly substantial motion that might invite a lot of questions. Where at time I have to go, could I ask you just, this is maybe your notice of a motion that we can discuss at council? Or next utility feels far. When is the next utility?
October 5th.
That feels very far away. Yeah, maybe at the next council meeting?
But you know what I can do, though?
Don't we have an August meeting? Sorry. Is there not an August meeting?
Chair, due to time constraints, what I can
Apologies, August 24th.
Okay. Let's
Yep.
do August 24th. Okay.
Yep, we can do that. This will be a notice.
Yeah, that way I think, because this is your first draft, we can like kind of refine it as well.
100%.
Because this is a research report anyways, right? I mean, it's not options, so it is.
You know what, I was thinking we could take that first sentence and just stop it right at, like in the first sentence. So we could do a report with, to mitigate financial impact of illegal dumping on multifamily housing providers, condo associations, and residents. Stop there. And then we can take all of those bullets and look at those into a future report.
Yeah, I'm happy, I'm satisfied with that.
Oh,
What about you,
okay.
Chair?
That works, yeah.
All right, okay. Any other questions on that format then? But does clerk, did you capture that to reformat it? Okay, they got it. Okay, any other questions on this one? If not, let's just vote. Wait, is that the one that you mentioned? Okay.
Yeah, so is the intent that that would be returned for August?
That was not my intent, because I know you're coming back with a report further on this, and I was hoping I can, in addition to your report, if you can mitigate, actually put this into your report as well, if the time allotment is there.
Yeah, no, and that would be a November timeline. Like, that's more achievable because we would be bringing back the financial impacts of the recommendations.
Yeah, let's do that.
Things, so maybe then this gets adjusted to, this information gets added into the November rate file. Does that work?
That's fine for myself.
I think that's probably the only, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the timeline for this would be November, or I guess Q4, 2026. Okay, let's vote on this, or unless you want to close.
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you.
We have all the votes?
Please display the vote. Okay, that's passed. Okay, response to councillor inquiries, none. Private reports, none. Motions pending, none. Notice of motion and motions without customary notice, Not that I'm aware of. We're adjourned.